Alright, let me unmute everything real quick. Actually put on the creator save playlist so YouTube doesn't get mad. No, let's have a different song. There we go. Alright. Let me put this back up to my mouth so we can function. What the fuck am I forgetting? This. There we go. Now we can see everything. Alright. So, on the duck pen open. Where did we last leave off? We left off at Jungle, if I remember correctly. So, yep, everything's working. Epic Pen showing up on stream. Beautiful. I just ate, so I might be coughing a little bit. So I might have to mute my mic some. Happens. Alrighty. So, realistically, when we were looking at this game, right, this is supposed to be the pick composition versus poke composition with frontline and then no champion pool. So, what ends up needing to be able to occur is Unicorns realistically wants to be able to path bot side to be able to assist out the people who are going to be constantly pressuring forward to try to abuse the Leona and Jhin as much as possible, right? Then also because realistically the poke is what's going to be the biggest factor in this game by far, they are going to be your win condition along with Zoe. The Sion is not going to be your win condition. So why would we path towards someone and give someone resources who is not going to be our win condition? It doesn't make sense. Okay. Excuse me. On the flip side, the Diana has the ability to go for both lanes, but then realistically we have to think about which lane is going to have more value, because always junglers are going to be attacking mid lane, right? So normally when you're deciding where to attack, it's always going to be a decision between top and bottom. Very rarely is going to be mid, because again, you should always be attacking mid. Constantly, constantly, constantly. How are we already down a potion? We just didn't buy a potion. Oh, Frostbite. Alrighty. So, in this kind of a game, realistically, the person that's going to have the highest amount of impact in this game is going to be topside, because if Camille can get onto the backline, just one-shot someone, that's her entire purpose in life, along with Jhin as a utility AD carry. Jhin loves to be able to enable people to be able to get to the backline and then stick on people through his ultimate and through his W to be able to function. Right? As the game progresses, he's still going to be a scary champion, and he's very, very good when accelerated, but he can play the utility role and be just happy with that. Camille has to dive, and again, if Camille gets on top of one of these and she's accelerated, it's just a one-shot. Even through Karma Shielding, it's just a straight up one-shot. Right. So then, with this as well, if top lane does get accelerated versus a Sion, the Camille can just split push constantly and keep Sion out of the team fights as need be as well. This is another way to be able to create a win con where now all of a sudden you take out Sion from this equation, there is no front line. If Leona goes in, Leona goes in. If Diana goes in or Zed goes in, they go in. It's already there, right? So, Diana should be starting bot side. Wukong should be starting top. Diana should be full clearing all the way up because realistically there's no reason for Wukong to show up top. If Wukong does decide to 3-camp top, oh well, shit happens kind of thing. Excuse me. Because realistically, if Wukong's willing to 3-camp in the time that Diana's done with 5, because that's actually the clear differential. That's fine. Camille TP's back. Diana helps this out, guarantees the crash. Camille can then rotate into mid and try to make a play during the downtime. Sion then was most likely going to have to reset and then TP back. So it ends up being TP for TP and then a kill for 3 additional camps. 3 to 4. Potentially 5 with the opposite Skull Crab, but realistically opposite Skull Crab shouldn't be taken because these two should have prio for the majority of the laning phase. As long as they play the lane out correctly. Excuse me. So with this as well, every single time that the Diana ends up resetting and then going back towards the bot side camp, she should actively be looking bottom because it's not like this side doesn't have kill threat. This side can absolutely create kill threat. So if that's the case, you can still show up, you can still have a very, very heavy impact because you allow them to fight by showing up. So even if Wukong shows up, you show up, and the play should still be net positive, right? Depending on their resources. If their resources are low, then you can state, I am here to be able to fix your wave, to be able to bail you out of it, just so you can keep them in the game and keep them going. As long as resources are high on this side, there's still high kill threat on this. Excuse me. Unless red side plays out perfectly. Alright, so Karma can save Mantra, use Mantra W plus shield to be able to keep herself alive. Ezreal can be able to E, but then there's the ability to follow up depending on what rune we have here. Which, by the way, this is Aftershock. This should be Glacial. I don't know if I touched on that last time. That should be Glacial this game. Leona can realistically run 4 runes. 4 runes. She can run Predator. That's going to be the least. She can run Unsealed Spellbook. She can run Aftershock, and she can run Glacial Augment. So you run Glacial versus people that don't have the ability to escape, and if you go in, you're not getting just one tapped. In this game, you're not getting one tap, you're getting slowly poked out. So they can choose when the damage comes out, meaning Aftershock has no value. And then, also on the flip side, Aftershock is used whenever you are getting one shot. So your verse is a Nautilus Jhin. Yeah, go in with Aftershock. You're going to feel a lot better comparatively. Excuse me. So, with this now, we have specific things to be able to look for. I'll start with blue side as normal. What are we doing here? Why did this take so long? Okay. So the only reason to sweep this ward, as a side note, is if a soul laner is going to be able to get experience from it. If that's not the case, there's no point to sweep this. Save sweeper for the laning phase. Because whether or not that ward's in existence doesn't matter. They already know where Diana's starting. So the fact that Diana skipping Krugs is a massive problem because realistically, Diana has a, I think it's like a 310 6 camp. Oh. It's like a 310 6 camp with one smite and a leash. Something like that. If you optimize it more, you can get down to a 305 relatively easily. Excuse me. But a 310 6 camp should be really, really standard. So the fact that we're skipping a camp, and we're trying to 5 camp is inherently a problem. We're not clearing enough on our jungle clear to be able to function. This Diana is all about clear speed. Similar concept to the last time I think I was watching May. She just doesn't pull out camps. And not pulling out camps is a massive difference. So for instance, again, Wolf should be dying like up here. You should already be like hitting blue buff with the next Q. You should already just be there. Just slightly delayed. And then also when you get to this part, double camp. So notice how if we double camp these... There we go. Okay. Really, really delayed. But we got there. Have we smited the first time yet? We haven't even smited the first time. Right? Just double checking. No, we have. Okay. So it ended up being 2 smites at 3 minutes. If we want to double smite, you might as well just take the additional 10 seconds to clear the Krugs. So you're here by 3:15. So in your level 4. So if you optimize the clear a little bit, you don't have to use a second smite. And then also you would have an additional camp. So none of this would occur because by the time you went into this gank, you'd be level 4. That actually made the difference. Just that one camp. So we're resetting. First thing we should go for is just straight up the Skull Crab off of reset. Every single time you come off of reset, you should be determining where you go. And just by looking at lane states, right? Excuse me, we need to be bot side, and we know for a fact this bot skull is still up. So if this is pushed in, Zoe has no ability to rotate till the lane is relatively neutral. Skull Crab should be first. Always go for the most contested camp first. Instead, we go for this, and then also, realistically, we have to look towards bot every single time. We're pathing towards bot. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's dead neutral with the line of skirmish here, basically. So it is pushing into them. They're safe. Cool. Okay. And then every single time that we path up into here, we should be looking towards mid lane. This is correct. This is a very, very volatile state. May should be showing up. This is correct. Nice tag. Forces flash. Good. Back to your camp. Fantastic. Q dash. Perfect. Kite it out, please kite it out, please kite it out. And also, please do not smite Raptors. Raptors is the worst camp in the game to smite for AoE champions. You're an officers? I'm not an officers. Can't be an officers. There we go. There you are as well. Alright. Heads up, you're having a lot of feedback.
Alright, I'm going to be muted for most... I mean, I'll still be here and talking, but... Yeah.
Okay. So now similar problem, we're still not kiting out the camps fully, so because we're not kiting out the camps fully, we run to an issue of, well, everything is slow, right? Then also realistically, we should be looking at the lanes every single time we path over. So the best time to be able to do it becomes whenever you're transitioning from one quadrant to another, you look up top and you look mid lane, just to see what the fuck's going on. So when we look at this and we see a sign with absolutely no mana with the wave coming crashing in, this needs to be a skip camp, and then into gank immediately. And the reason this is a gank immediately is because the resources are already gone. So we need to be here before Wukong. On top of that, that's loud music. Let me fix that. Ruination music. All right. So, with this as well, right, we need to be able to be here before Wukong. And on top of that, Camille has the ability to crash this wave and we just dive off of that instantaneously. We want to be able to do that because the longer this stalls out, the more farm and experience Cyan just gets for free. Right? So now he's gotten 2 full waves that he shouldn't have been able to get whatsoever. It should have just been a dive. He loses all of that. And then now we go for the dive, but this is the misplay if I remember correctly. Yeah. This was a bad Camille play. Right. And now all of a sudden, even if we did kill him here, right, he then still goes zombie form. He still clears all of these minions. So we got, again, 2 full waves that he wasn't supposed to get. Excuse me. And then also after that dive, you just go straight back to your camps, or you decide to invade red side based on your resources. So, backing this up, similar concept. Every time we come out of base, we should be looking at what lane states are. So this wave is coming into us. We have Jin and Leona going to be back there in time. That's very buggy. I'm assuming all of these minions are actually in the line here. And it's just spectate client spazzing. Spectate client spazzing. Okay. So yeah, they have the ability to hold this. We have the Leona and we have the Jin ready to go. The opponents don't have flashes. This should be skip camps directly into bot with Jin holding freeze and then Leona come in late. If the freeze does not hold and these two have the ability to secede or to back off, then you go back to your camps. But first thought should be, this is gankable, they should be holding freeze. So if we go straight to our camps, this is inherently wrong. We are going straight to our camps, this is inherently wrong. Now we go one additional step further, right? Whenever you clear your camps, you always want to clear them in order, so that way you have the ability to just keep clearing them on repeat and they keep leveling up and keeps just a nice pathing. Because if you decide to go for Raptors into Krugs, then go into your blue side, for instance, that's going to be the next respawn timers as well. So we really, really want to start here and then path up so that way this respawns as fast as possible. And also, as a Diana, you should be power clearing. Diana is a power clearing champion. Right. Second thought, you don't want to just start with the buff unless you know for a fact you need this buff and then to go do something immediately, or you're afraid of an invade. And the reasoning for that is the second you take this buff is the second it starts the timer. So if you're going here directly into this pit, what are you going for? We were going for... When do the pings come out? I don't know what the comms are like, but realistically, if we have no mid prio and bot lane is not rotating in current state, not even hard hovering river right now, doing this is just suicide. Why are they not just killing you? It took Josh a long time to recognize you were there. Yeah, so there's no reason to be able to do this because you don't have mid prio. We know for a fact that they're in river, so there's no way you get the skull crab. No one's going to rotate to be able to help you in time. Realistically as well, again, similar concept. Once mid dies, we should just not even be going for dragon. Similar concept, we don't have prio. So now what should occur is the Wukong should then go into their jungle and take... Oh no, did Wukong die? Yeah, Wukong died. Oh, okay. Okay. I saw the full life and I was like, oh, you can just go in mid. No. Alright. So ends up being a 3-for-1. This 3-for-1 is caused by not understanding that mid lane just died. And now all of a sudden, all these camps are in a really, really weird state. So where are we running to? We're running straight to our blue side, and now we're desyncing more camps. So now once we've desynced this camp, right, how are we going to path? We're going to go here, into here, into here, into potentially gank, then into Raptors and Krugs. Is that the pathing that we're going to take? Thank you for double camping. We get the gank off into Rift. Okay, this is super important to be able to note. Long story short on Rift. Quick maths. Rift Herald gives you 300 gold whenever you kill it. Okay? Because it's 100 to the person that killed it, 200 localized gold. So if one person kills it, they get the full 300. Right? Rift Herald then gives 25 gold back. It's minus the 25. So in reality, it's worth 275 gold. Then we have to state, okay, it's worth 2 plates, which is 320. So it is 595. That's how much gold it actually gives. If it gets more than that, it's because someone fucked up. Rift Herald is a win more objective. And realistically, every time it gets like 4 plates or it finishes off a turret, if it's finishing off a turret, that means the turret already had to be at 2 plates. If your turret is down to 2 plates pre 14 minutes, you fucked up something really, really hard. Or your jungler didn't rotate. So for instance, if Rift Herald gets taken, the wave is coming in. Or let me rephrase this. So let's say blue side takes Rift Herald, blue side's wave is pushing underneath the turret for Sion. The opposite jungler or the opposite mid laner better be running straight up to be able to prevent this dive. Someone should be defending that because we all know what's happening. They have Herald, meaning their jungler's topside. The wave is slow pushing in. They want to use it to be able to break a turret. If no one rotates, that is inherently a problem. Rift Herald only works versus bad players, right? Except for the 2 plates. The 2 plates are basically guaranteed, right? Now, the next side of the argument is, oh, Rift Herald gives experience. Yes and no is the answer to that. Rift Herald gives the same experience to the person that killed it as it does to the person that kills it after it spawns. And it's still... Alrighty. I'm back. I'll be able to cut that out of the YouTube video.
You able to cut out?
Me being gone temporarily.
Oh, okay.
I've
I
had
was,
my gallbladder out since like December, and I
Mhm.
always forget there are specific things if you eat, not even my stomach can wait anymore. Literally an hour later after you eat, you're going. I tried to hold it off, couldn't hold it off. Here we are. That part's also getting cut out. So, where the fuck?
It's a streaming exclusive.
Yeah.
You were talking about
Harold.
counter jungling into Herald instead of the other way around.
Right.
And I had interrupted and was going to ask you, wouldn't it be good in this scenario for Diana to leave a Raptor?
I'm sorry. I know what you're saying, but you're also lagging uncontrollably.
Okay.
So it's
If
not
you know
even-
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can still answer the question. So when you leave one camp up, or one like little raptor up, or like the medium krug up, the camp won't respawn up until that gets cleared, which is a good thing in some parts. There are reasons to do that and reasons to not do that. So reasons to do that are no one is going to clear that camp for an extended period of time. Right? If there is anyone that has the ability to clear the camp in a reasonable time frame, then there's no point to leave it. So for instance, if we look at the map right now, Zoe right now has the ability to come check this at worst case scenario. So you can ward, because realistically, if Herald gets taken, you know your entire side of the jungle is up. Either Diana's bum rushing here or Diana's bum rushing here. We know Diana's not bot side. We know Diana already cleared this because it took too long to be able to take Herald. Right? So we know Diana's somewhere in this general vicinity. So if Zoe checks and places a ward on Raptors, right? Because Zoe is relatively low, or Zoe can literally just ult over top of the wall to be able to check. She's relatively high mana. Then if there's one low Raptor there, Zoe will just clear it. So that this one has no value. If we decide to state, okay, let's clear this, then let's go to Krugs and let's leave one Krug up. By the time we get to the point of leaving one Krug up, more likely than not, Wukong's already reset and then coming in to be able to check his remaining camps, because he has nothing to do on bot side either. So leaving up a small Krug also doesn't make sense because someone's going to check this in the near future. So you might as well take the experience and gold yourself. But it's a good thought process. Yeah, so in this case, Sion came to come check, while Zoe didn't. So both camps should have been checked. There's no point to leave up a small one. Doesn't do anything. All right. Then we go to Raptors. And this is where, yep. So it was another bad play from Camille. Just went in way too early with slight mechanical issues. And then also Nashor's Tooth Diana does not help this fight at all comparatively to the other build. This build spikes at Nashor's. Does not spike before that. And when you do build Nashor's, this is going some Fire Cape. Right? Or Frostfire Gauntlet. But because of this team right here, you're not going to be getting extended fights versus anyone besides Sion, right? Which, realistically, not your job to kill. It becomes Camille and Zed. Yes, Zed can cut through tanks. And then Wukong, potentially, but Wukong has 2 dashes and multiple knockups. You're probably not getting an extended fight with him either. So if you wanted to go this build, this would be Frostfire Gauntlet, but then also, why not just one-shot the squishies like what your job is? So then this should be Proto Belt into Situational. Much better build, comparatively. Also give you better backline access. Alrighty. So once we respawn, we should realistically have an idea of what we want to do. We already know that this is down. If we want to path top, unless we're afraid of people taking these camps, please start with farthest away and move up. Much better. Because I'm assuming we just go straight to blue side. Oh, we're pathing down now. Okay. Nope, we're invading? Okay. Never mind, I stand corrected. This can work out. The problem with this is, realistically, we want to be able to have double lane prio whenever this occurs, right? So in this context, right now, Frostblood doesn't have prio. Right? And what I mean by that is he just uses major cooldown. Zoe has the wave pushing. He's going to be forced to back away. So if we go for this camp and it gets spotted out, Zoe will be able to rotate first by a long shot. We also have Sion pushing in currently. So Camille does not have the ability to be able to rotate over whatsoever. So going for this invade is very risky. If it gets found out, there's a high chance you just die. It's not worth it. But it's a thought that existed. And then in this case, a fight ended up happening mid where, let's see when this transition comes in, right? So right here, Zoe's already hard pushing up. Realistically, we have to relieve the pressure before we do this. And this is why I also state that junglers have to play for mid lane always. If you don't have mid lane prio, you can't go anywhere without having a numbers disadvantage or a numbers equivalency, which is not what you want. So when we're invading this, instead of invade, this should just be an immediate gank into mid lane, force out the flash, and try to help out your laner. And similar concept as well. Excuse me. Frostbite has lethal there. We'll see if he plays it slightly better if he has lethal. Yeah, so Q just needed to come out slightly earlier. Or Flash Q, one of the two. So yeah, it would probably be Q Flash to be able to guarantee it hits and then take it back. And that's the kill. So there was a lethal that actually existed there. So similar concept, if Diana's hovering then, there's no death here. Or no potential death. It's upside. And then there's the sign rotating into. No, that makes sense. So we want to go for a camp before helping out a lane that was pushed in, while also the opposite lane is pushed in. Hence a sign that can rotate very, very quickly. Now we just lose more things. And we're losing these camps because we're actively taking bad pathing. The bad pathing comes from trying to invade without having the proud to be able to guarantee it. Okay. Because also, to put into perspective, 100 farm on Diana at 14 minutes is actually relatively low. She has one of the fastest full clears in the entire game, come like third reset. It's because of her passive is just so absurd. When you actually look at the damage dealt, right, it's 160 every third auto attack, which happens pretty frequently, let's be real. No, it's tripled. It's tripled. This is 480 damage every third auto attack. That is stupid. Now include the fact that it's AoE. So literally for Raptors at this stage in the game, it is Q, auto, auto, third auto, the entire camp is gone. That's how fast it gets done. Right? And you can do this with the majority of camps. On top of that, she also has the ability to give sight over walls. So for instance, she can be here, Q the blue buff and see it. And then she has dashes. This is also why Nidalee is one of the fastest junglers in the entire game when you're insane with her. Because she spears something, she jumps from a mile away to it, and she just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going and can kite it out. And has so many fast ways to be able to get to places. But so the fact that we're at 100 farm instead of like 120 plus, especially when we counter jungle the entire red side, so an additional 16 farm, is really, really low. Where are we going now? Are we going Proto Belt now? Proto Belt Nashers? That doesn't make sense. Nashers for extended fights, Proto Belts for burst fights. They're opposite. I mean, this isn't necessarily bad, but I build it as like a 5th item, something along the lines of that. Okay. I'm going for red because everything is taken. And we're trying to contest this dragon. Alright. So, dragon time. Realistically, whenever you're doing a dragon, there's 2 thought processes to a dragon, right? We have to think about what our job is, and also, excuse me, what the opponents want to accomplish, right? So, for instance, on Diana, Diana realistically wants to be clustered with the team because if she flanks and gets forced off, she then can't smite the dragon anymore. Junglers can't flank. It's not an option. So, realistically, wherever the most people are, you want to be able to group. And then when you're looking at Camille and Zed, they also, or they realistically want to be able to flank, right? But you can't have 3 flankers on one side and then have your 2 engagers on the opposite side because that just doesn't work. Then they're not really flankers anymore. So realistically, Camille should be rotating here. Zed should be on backline because Zed has much, much better lethal comparatively to Camille at this stage, even though he's down an item. That's wrong. We'll talk about that later. So Diana should come down here because bot lane is already here and we want to stay grouped. Camille should also join that. She has a very, very long range. She is less spooky than Zed when Zed gets into the backline here. And then Zed should be able to flank so that they're forced to divert their attention in one of 2 ways. You could do double flanker here. It's not the worst, but it's also not the greatest. So when Dadicus roams up, this is inherently wrong. And your Shilicat are inherently correct here. And then Gojo going, or Godad going way, way, way too early, especially with Zed in the mid lane right now. Why are we close enough to get bubbled? Yeah, we just entered it. Watch the mechanics check. 11, 12, 15. Okay. Oh no. There was a point fuck up. There was an accidental point in E. That's a really, really good ult. So then this should be an immediate engage. Press the R key. Okay. So this can only be pseudo salvaged by a 4-man ultimate. And this is also the problem with Diana. She's basically just for this inherent knockup or power farming into like absurdity. But if we want to power farm into absurdity, there's a lot of champions that can do that have more relevancy. So the main reason you're picking Diana is for her one-shot potential or her ultimate, which generally is going to be her ultimate in current state. So in this case, whenever you pick Diana, normally you would pick it with a Yasuo, and then that would be a team wipe right there because she does get exhausted whenever she goes in. Whenever she gets exhausted, she feels kind of miserable at that point. Nice flash to be able to escape. Asher's Tooth did nothing in that fight. Ah, that's kill. Oh, that's kill. There's also inherently a problem if we're going to talk about the summoners. This should be Ignite. So I talked about him last stream a little bit. Well, 100% should be Ignite. Okay. That's the first 15 minutes of play. It's not bad. It's just really, really inefficient. And it's mostly due to the fact of, like, you need to be able to pull camps out to be able to do them fast enough. And if you do, let me phrase this. Once you have the ability to insta-burst a camp, you should be insta-bursting a camp. It shouldn't take you an additional 2 seconds to be able to finish it. Because if you could have an additional 20 farm here and have a 40 farm lead on Wukong, probably honestly more than 20. Probably closer to 30 at this stage. Because realistically, 130-ish is about right for 16 minutes for Diana. That's really standard. Excuse me. And that's without taking lane farm or anything. That's just how fast you can clear. So if you can be up 50 farm on Wukong while having your exact same ganks, you're in a much, much better spot. Much, much, much better spot. Actually, would you have Proto Belt for that fight? No. No. Because it'd have to be before the kills. Yeah, you would only have 600 more gold, so it would only be 1,000. There's no way you finish. I don't think. I think Proto Belt's like, what, 1,200? From this stage? It was like Ruby Crystal plus X, I think. Oh, no, it's Amptome. Amptome plus X. And I think the X is 650? I'm getting my math wrong in my head. I don't remember exactly what it is. Okay. So anyways, onto the flip side, Black Unicorn. So realistically, we can already establish we're going towards the wrong side of the map. We're just pathing top. And a lot of autofill junglers and lower junglers. Give me 1 second, need a drink. A lot of autofill junglers and lower level or lower tier junglers tend to have they have a tendency to start bot side purely due to the fact that they get a leash from 2 people instead of 1. That's basically the entire thought process that gets put in there. But in reality, where you start completely determines who you're actually attacking, right? So in this context, we realistically want to attack these 2, but we can only give them minor help whenever we path towards bottom. And if we do path towards bottom, right, and that's our weak side, if that play goes wrong, Diana snowballs out of control, we're just completely out of the game because your camps will be respawning at that point in time. Because your camps are respawning at that point in time and something went wrong, Diana will be able to invade them, take them, go up half a level to a full level, then go to the opposite side of the map and repeat process. Everything standard on Wukong so far. Most Wukongs, to my knowledge, 4 camp in current state, just because its clear is so bad early. Stop hitting the small ones. Please do not hit the small ones. Notice how healthy this big one is right now. In reality, the majority of the time when you're killing the small ones, you just use any AoE to be able to finish them off. It's like your E. Because the E adds so much burn because of the jungle item. Oh, almost screwed up. Oh, Star Guardians music. Just noticed that. So we're killing small ones first. Killing small ones aren't inherently bad. Just depends on context. Saves you a lot of life. But on Wukong, do you really care about your life? Like, look at this. Your jungle clear is so absurdly healthy. If we notice as well, we're on our 5th camp now. And there hasn't really been much wrong. Like, you can optimize, like, how far you're pulling things out by a little bit. But that's about it. And that was also a double smite with a leash for 317. By the time we hit this point, Diana, in perfect world, should already be 10 seconds done with a 6 camp. With a leash and a singular smite. That's how slow Wukong's clear is. And even if we optimize your clear, then we probably just don't have to burn second smite to be able to be 315, but we're still 10 seconds behind with a 5 camp instead of a 6 camp. There's just no way to contest it, so then Wukong's forced to gank this game. Okay, and then taking that is correct because Sion's realistically not going to be able to do much throughout the entire course of the game. We're basically just giving him stats to be able to frontline versus the assassins, but also Wukong can have stats versus the frontline. Or to be able to frontline, while also dealing damage. Alright, we're looking for camps. So, this is super important and also something that junglers don't have a tendency to do, is whenever the opposing jungler shows, press tab. Always, always, always press tab. Because you can look at their farm and you can determine what camps they've taken, right? So if they have 20 farm and double buffs, you can walk down and see, okay, is Skullcrab up? Skullcrab is up. Okay, so that means they cleared 5 camps. No one will ever skip Gromp. Ever. The reason that no one will ever skip Gromp is because of the heal. Right? Now on top of that as well, anyone, like most junglers have really high single target damage and potentially AoE. But they all have the ability to do single target damage. So with that context, right, Gromp's one of the fastest camps to die. So basically all junglers. The exception to this is like if they have heavy AoE like Diana, then Raptors die super, super fast. On a secondary note, most junglers end up skipping Krugs if they do skip a camp for a 5 camp, because Krugs takes an absurdly large amount of time. It's dumb. And the only reason it takes so long is because the things need time to spawn and you can't hit them during that time frame. So if whenever something dies, it takes a full 1 second for it to come out and for you to be able to hit it. That's a long time to wait when that happens 4 times. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, literally 4 times. No, 5 times. 5 times. That happens 5 times. That sucks. That's a lot of time wasted comparatively to just doing Gromp. Alright. Wait, I screwed up something on my secondary monitor. No. Let me fix. There we go. Alright. So we can assume, okay, this was skipped. All of this is done. Alright? Because realistically, when AoE persons skip Wolves for a 5 camp, no. Would they skip Raptors for a 5 camp? No. No one's skipping Gromp. We're down to Krugs. It's almost always Krugs. Every time. So once we see the Skull Crab is still up, this should already be a notice of ignore this. So I can guarantee we didn't press tab here. 100% guarantee it. Okay. We end up taking Skull Crab and then ganking mid here. Realistically, this gank should never work ever. And the reason this should never work is people already know exactly where you are. Skull Crab was up. The Scryer's Bloom was just hit. This gank should never work. Frostbud should be playing bot pocket in order to protect himself from this, right? So your job here, you actually do have a job here. Back it up. You should realistically be helping the shove and guaranteeing it, because what happens if a fight breaks out over this Skull Crab? Because Diana could have just bum rushed it. Well, your bot lane's on the back foot, right? It's support to support with the wave pushing this way slightly. Like if Leona just wants to leave, Leona will just leave. And then low health Karma versus like decent health Leona with low mana, Leona's going to have much, much more value at this stage in the fight. Just an all-out brawl. So you want to be able to shove this out with the Zoe without taking the farm. No farm for you. All farm to Zoe. And then you can both rotate over to Skull Crab to guarantee it, or Zoe can then take a reset while still hovering. But now the second you walk away, Frostbud can then just all in this because level discrepancy. And now all of a sudden all that prio that we thought we had is just gone. Frost should have actually just all in that straight up. No, actually, should I have? Let me rephrase that statement. No, he needed to wait an extra couple seconds just to guarantee you were gone. But either way, we need to be able to push that out to be able to assist it. Now we're in a bad state, even though you just walked through the lane. Okay, next thought. Why do we have to hit this? What purpose does this serve? If we see a ward in the river, are we ganking that? The wave is currently, excuse me, relatively neutral with the live scrimmage being right here, meaning it's pushing towards us. Are you willing to risk camp to be able to make this gank? Fuck no. Are you willing to risk camp if the gank gets extended and Diana just never shows? Because Diana, the second you show bot, should just bum rush your red side camps. No. Why would we risk 400 gold for 450 gold? The 400 gold's guaranteed. The reason, again, I say 400 gold is because 200 of it is yours. Or sorry, 200 of it you're losing, 200 of it Diana is gaining. The net swing is 400. That's very important to be able to note. Why counter jungling is also so devastating. Okay, so I'm taking a reset here because we also didn't buy items yet. We go Sheen into Kindle Gem. The Kindle Gem I do not like here. The reason I don't like the Kindle Gem here, over top of like double longsword, is because realistically, your jungle clear is impacted by how much damage you can do. So the more damage you have or the more movement speed you have, the better your clear is going to be. Also, how much gold do you have? Okay, so you had 861 basically after that. So you would be at 150 gold. Yeah. All right. Secondary thought process is realistically you are a burst champion. You're going to play for realistically 1 rotation per camp at this stage, and you're going to play for 1 rotation per fight at this stage. The cooldown reduction doesn't do anything. You can also make the argument that, okay, having 200 life is nice versus basically assassin, Jhin, tank, pick person, right? But that's not necessarily the case. If you take a correct fight, that extra AD can also kill someone faster. When you kill someone faster, it stops their damage output. Because it stops their damage output, you have essentially created effective life. So for instance, if because you don't kill Diana, that 2 to 3 seconds earlier, it could legitimately be a full 2 seconds earlier because of the double longsword, because of how much you auto attack as Wukong. Because if we go dash, auto, or auto Q auto, that's already 3 hits. So that's 60 bonus damage already instantaneously. If not more, because I forget if this scale's higher. Yes, it's a full auto attack plus 45% bonus. So it's higher than 60. It's probably close to like 65, 70-ish. We'll go with 70 for simplicity's sake. It'll be pretty... yeah, it'll be like 68 technically. We'll go for 70 just for math's sake, right? Then we auto attack 2 more times. Pretty realistic. Add another 40 damage to that. We're looking at 110 damage. That can absolutely stop Diana from being able to get another rotation of Q off. If she does not Q, we've basically made up the Kindle gem. It's very, very close. That's super, super realistic. That's something to be able to consider. Okay. So we end up going to this camp. That's technically correct, but the problem is we're being so outcleared because of Diana that we're in a bad state. And then again, similar concept. You hit this, you showed exactly where you were. You had no chance of ganking this anyways. There is no reason to ever clear this ward whatsoever because this ward does absolutely nothing. You gave away exactly where you were. Diana punishing that is correct. And then this gank just sucked. So you ended up picking something up. Also, we talked about before, when we were in the top lane, Lifeless Paradise still had his empowered zombie form here. He could have just cut off the Camille. And then you wouldn't have to flash. So you should still have flash up, technically. Excuse me. That's what I get for drinking pop. Alright, then similar concept. If you want to know how much farm someone has, just press tab. Just press tab. When you see them, you can figure out how much they've cleared. So if we look, it's 36 farm right now, right? Plus the 1 camp taken. So this should technically be 40, right? So if we go, this was 20, right? 5, or 4, 8, 16, 20, 24. Wait, did I do this wrong? 8, 12, 16, 20. I did this wrong. I skipped 1 step. Right, so there's the 20. You took this, right? So then we're at 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. We know what camps are taken. We know exactly what camps are taken. So if we know exactly what camps are taken, why are we invading again? We're not pressing tab. And again, this is something that a lot of junglers have an issue with, that it's just a simple competency. Similar concept to throughout the entire tryouts, I didn't see a single person type in summoner spells. All that has to be done to type in summoner spells is literally, okay, they flashed at 10 minutes, 15 AD. Done. You have a timer. And if you want to be able to keep this timer, you use control, just the copy paste as you normally would. So control A is select all, control C is copy, control V paste. Same as Word, same as everything else. Really, really easy. And then whenever you have a new timer, you type out the new timer. So let's say it's 17 mid, right? You can just go 17M, press space, control V. There's your timer, control A, select all, control C. Now you just start to paste everything again, right? Then all of a sudden, what happens when it's 15 minutes? Because you placed them in this order where you typed out the newest one first, then pasted the old stuff, recopied it, you just delete the oldest one. Real easy. Then it's, again, similar concept, control A, control C. Now we have a timer. Not a single person did that. But it's a similar concept of it's something that's really, really easy to do, but you have to get in the habit of doing it. Excuse me. All right. This ends up working out. Because again, this wastes so much additional time, it's insane. And then also, no way in hell this gank should work. This serves absolutely no purpose. I'll talk about that when we get to mid lane, but it's a similar thing of like, they watched you walk down here. They straight up watched you walk down here. So they know you have a chance to be in river. The fact that we're this far up with this blind spot right here or this blind spot right here is insane. This W should never be used. But we'll touch on that when we get to mid lane. We have no respect for junglers. Now, I'm assuming we also watched the support walk up too. So this gank has no business working. But it did. So we can make the argument of just like, oh yeah, because you didn't look at that, you end up searching through here and then, oh yeah, the gank worked. But that's results-based analysis comparatively to why didn't we just reset or why didn't we just bum rush straight to mid? we have better options comparatively to what occurred to be able to be more consistent. And then similar concept, right? This play worked out. We got really accelerated off of this. Should this have happened? No. We looked at May's side. There's no reason that May should have been able to go over that wall or had any reason to go over that wall besides to stay for a fight. But if the bot lane's not ready to rotate and we have no mid prio, why are we looking for a 3v4 fight? That doesn't make sense. So we're hyper accelerated off of just existing, basically. And people are screwing up. Which is good, but again, this is also why, like, at the start of tryouts, I talked about, I don't care if you win, I don't care if you lose, I don't care what your KDA is to an extent. I care about the context, right? So if you get absurdly fed in this game with, like, relatively meh pathing, and then also we're skipping a couple things, and then we're not pressing tab to be able to look at what camps up, and we're wasting a large period of time, but then people are just killing themselves, well, then people are just killing themselves. That's something to be aware of. Also, I remember you were talking about you could Q and then W really quickly on Wukong, and I haven't been looking for that. I screwed up. I should have been looking for that. Okay. So now as well, similar context to what I was talking about with May, if we're taking the wolves, we're desyncing our camps. Because if you want to go here, and to here, and to here, and do them both at the same time, basically you're stating, I am pathing this down, intentionally desyncing my camps to gank this lane. Why do we have to gank the lane with the Ezreal leaving? So if that's the context, this serves no purpose. It should be going straight to Gromp and doing Gromp and blue at the same time, then pathing up. Or if we didn't want that and we want to path towards bottom because no gank is going to occur for a while, we would go for Krugs first and path down to be efficient. If the argument is we want to play for Dragon, how do we play for Dragon when our AD carry just recalled and they have full lane prio? That doesn't make any sense. Our AD carry just recalled and we have no lane prio. This doesn't make any sense. So when we get to bot lane, we're going to try to figure out what the fuck was happening here, because why are you magically allowed to do this when their bot lane could have just checked this, walked through mid, gotten mid prio if they didn't see you, just for whatever reason, and then all of a sudden this play dies to the wayside instantaneously. All they had to do was see you, and it was done. You've already lost it. Oh, boy. All right. Well, that's on Cat. When we get to support, we're going to talk about that, because this is a really, really bad roam. Because similar concept with, like, when you were pathing through here to be able to make this play just to guarantee the mid can rotate, what's better to be able to have at this fight? The support or the support plus the mid lane? It's always going to be both, right? So why isn't Leona just helping Zed shove out so that Zoe's on the back foot, and then Zoe has no ability to rotate, Zed comes over, Leona comes over, this is now guaranteed, even if they don't know where you are. Or similar concept. If Leona pushes this out with Zed, right, then Zoe goes on the back foot, Zed rotates, Leona rotates, Jhin is here with ultimate, you guys are tanking dragon damage, this is a fucking wipe. And if it's not a wipe, you're making Zoe miss an entire wave of farm for it. No reason for this to work. No one cares about junglers. No one! It hurts. Okay, and after the dragon, they took Herald, so we're looking to go for an invade. This is fine. Realistically, we're not getting to our top side cleanly anyway, so we might as well take what we can get and tell your allies to be able to defend this. So the fact that Sion's still in the lane instead of defending camps is inherently wrong. The fact that Zoe isn't rotating to be able to defend camps is inherently wrong. The fact that you didn't end up going for Raptors is inherently wrong. You can be a little spooked of Raptors because we didn't know where Leona was, and Leona and Jhin could walk through here, so when you're doing Raptors, you just pull it out this way and save your W. If you watch Zed rotate down, then you just immediately leave, but we realistically want to go for the second camp because once you show bottom, the opposing jungler should take all of your camps up here. That's super, super standard. Then we come in, check, already know all the stuff. And then, again, luckily we're to a play where blue side screwed up. We had no business being here because we had other things to be able to do. Getting Sion ahead doesn't actually make a difference. Sion being behind doesn't actually make a difference. Right? There's so much more that needs to be done than what's occurring, but it's just things just keep happening magically. Which, again, it's good. You're getting fed. You're playing out the situations correct when you get into them. That's all good, and I can actively see that. But the problem then becomes, what happens if people don't just randomly fight? If that's the case, you don't get to play the game anymore. You go down a massive amount of farm, you're just worthless. These 4 literally shouldn't exist. This 1 should be much higher than 1. Because of how, like, what plays are being made. And this is super, super important too. Because, again, the second you face someone who can jungle track, all of your plays are worthless. Every time you hit this Scryer's Bloom on either side, they know exactly where you are. No play should be occurring. And similar concept, right? We're just, why are we clearing this ward when we don't have pressure to be able to rotate first? Jhin can't assist this. We're just doing random things. It's like, it's very arbitrary. It's like, we need to do this thing immediately. Similar concept. We need to place this ward right now. What does this ward do? Dragon's not for 2 minutes. This ward already sees this entire entrance. What does this ward accomplish besides seeing this? If we wanted to see this, why don't we place a ward right here? Or why don't we place a ward right here? Probably right here would be better, actually. No, I lied. Ward right here would be the best. But if we're running away, then we could always just place it right here. But we're just arbitrary things are occurring. And it doesn't make any sense. Also, as a side note. Hi, I need to knock up. What's up? Oh my god, I've forgotten your name again. I know I asked last time, too. I feel stupid. I'm so sorry. I'm really, really bad with names. Really good with, like, putting something to something else. Dakota, Jesus Christ. But, like, for instance, I remember you playing Yasuo. I remember talking with you about, like, how to function. I remember talking with you about, like, how to trade with Yasuo's passive. I remember all of that. Hell yeah, nice. But I can't remember names to save my life. I don't know why. Names just don't click. Anyways, so back to where we were. Mouse stopped working. I need to buy a new mouse, but these things are like $100, so. Excuse me? Hello? It's not working at all. There we go. Fantastic. All right. So, similar concept. But anyways, everything's become like really, really arbitrary and random. This is a fantastic skip, as a side note. So Zoe pushes in this wave, right? And realistically, Zoe has no business pressuring this. You're not relatively close yet. We have... Mouse, come on. What's wrong with you? Maybe I'm using the wrong mouse? Because it's... I have one of the things with the 12 buttons on the side. Okay, no, we're good. Alright. But realistically, we have no idea where Diana is whatsoever. We don't have any wards up besides down here. Wait. Okay, no, we're good. Thought broken. Alright. When we go back to this, we can hug this wall and guarantee our safety to an extent, but the second we get to right about there, Diana can QE, and then we're fucked. So we can't pass this line without being unsafe, right? Especially with no idea where Diana is. So this becomes an arbitrary trade that really sucks, and Wukong is forcing to swap his pathing to be able to accommodate for this. If the argument is that Zed is going to freeze, Zed's already proven he's not going to freeze. It doesn't make sense. This was the play where we saw with earlier that Zed actually did have a lethal if he was willing to blow flash, and then Zoe would have to burn normal flash. So we trade flash for flash, take it back, you're good. But very low chance that Zoe's going to react to that in time. Then we end up invading.
Did Diana show on the top pink ward?
It's their pink ward. It was blue side pink ward.
Oh, right. No, on... Is it?
Yeah, it's blue side pink ward.
I think that's red.
remember, if you ever get your gallbladder out in the future, it's fine. Do it. Stop the massive pain in your stomach. It's wonderful. But then past that point, remind yourself not to eat before doing anything important. Alrighty.
Note taken.
Where the fuck did we leave off? Oh yeah, we were about to start mid lane.
Starting mid lane.
Yeah! This one's a fun one. So, okay. This time my mouse is not working again. Okay. 3 works, 2 works. 7 works. I was using the wrong side. Because 5... Wait, everything's just working. Fascinating. Oh, we'll see. It's working now. Anyways, so realistically in this matchup, this is Zed favored. Zed has the ability to poke out Zoe very, very easily, especially through Electrocute, but Zoe has massive wave clear, right? So generally Zed starts taking prio over at level 6 because Zoe generally has the ability to 3-wave recall on him and then reset her health pool. Right? So there's not much Zed can really do before that unless Zoe makes massive mistakes. On top of that as well, when we're looking at the Zed, Zed is already missing a potion because he did not buy one, which is something to be able to keep in mind as well. Because realistically, this could happen because we zoned out slightly. Happens. This could be because one of our clicks didn't go through. Happens. This could be because of nerves. Happens. Excuse me. Alrighty. So on the flip side, we also have Doran's Ring, Health Potion, and Stopwatch. We already talked about runes previously, so not going to re-go over that. We get to play out this lane. So what I want to see is, again, similar concept to what I've been talking about previously. I want the mid laners to actually do something. Exist. Function. Not just try for solo kills. Right? Because their job should be to be able to destroy the opponent's economy to the point where they cannot rotate cleanly. So let's watch this. So, for particular things about both champions as well, Zed has the main combo that is the whole WEQ, and you can buffer EQ during the W, so it all comes out basically at the same time. Beyond that, Zed doesn't really have that many mechanics besides like shadowing first, then ulting, then immediately taking the shadow to dodge stuff. So especially like versus Zoe Bubble, she either times it perfectly or it doesn't work. Beyond that, everything's just kind of play around your electrocute cooldown. Zoe, on the other hand, has a couple things that are pretty intricate to her. So first off, level 2, you can decide whether or not you're taking W or E. If you take W, one of the minions can just spawn in the second wave with a bubble, but it doesn't show the bubble up until you take the ability. So you can just magically get an item. It's wonderfully stupid. The other thing is, with the bubble level 2, you can play really, really aggro because it's hard for people to be able to get on top of you. If they do, you can always sleep them, reset your spacing, and then play off of that, right? So especially when it's Ignite Zoe, we're looking basically for kill pressure in the laning phase, right? Second thing is, your passive works for both the initial cast of the Q and the secondary cast of the Q where you throw it out. So basically, you can get 2 Lichbane procs. Zoe is hyper abusive in lane through the utilization of her passive. If you're not actually using the passive in the early lane, you're screwing up the champion really heavily. So what normally happens is Zoe will play up, place a Q either here or here based on what pocket she's in. So if she's in top pocket, she places it here. If she's in bot pocket, she places it here. Right? And then with that, she can weave them through the minions. So she forces the opponent to either, let's say the Q is here, right? She forces the Zed to either move up and then you can auto, second Q auto. Now all of a sudden with missing everything, you've just dealt 42 more damage. Congratulations. You hit half of an ability without hitting an ability. Or, things here, the opponent must move back, then you can just throw out either casters or melees, and you can just accept the fact that you zone them off temporarily for like a full second, and you can manipulate the wave as need be. So you can get lane prio through that. Especially since Zoe's Q is on such a short cooldown, and it does so much fucking damage. It's really nice to be able to do. But again, most of it's through passive. So right now, Zoe would want to play up, because how does Zed create any lethal versus Zoe? The best he can do is throw out a Q, and then back off. And that's all he's going to be able to do. So if this is the context, we want to be able to trade here through Qs and through auto attacks and chunk him out, especially with the Ignite usage. So the fact that we're playing this passively is inherently a problem. So here's also this kind of thing, right? So the second you throw the Q here and you throw it out, that's most of your threat gone. You haven't used either of the 2 passives. You haven't put any pressure on Zed, and now Zed can play up. Zed doesn't have to be afraid anymore. So we're basically allowing him to farm by doing that. We don't want that. On top of that as well, we don't want to just hit the backline for free with an ability when it's ranged versus melee, because we have the ability to manipulate the wave however we want. Because we have control over it. We have the range discrepancy. We have the ability to shove him back. He shouldn't be allowed to play the game. But he is. And then once we hit this entire wave, now we've caused it to fast shove instead of slow push. Because remember, just like we talked about with the Karma in day 1, this is a lot of additional damage to the wave that just shouldn't exist, right? So, with all these concepts in mind, there is a way to be able to play this out. There is actually a pattern. Let me take a drink first. So it's what I like to call 2-1-1. And what this is you auto attack the first melee minion in the line twice. You auto attack the second melee minion in the line once. And you auto attack the first caster in the line once. 2-1-1. Right? What this does is it makes the minions die in sequence and it keeps the slow push. Right? This is, by the way, ranged versus melee. This is the ranged character doing this. Right? Then from there, the ranged character then moves past the wave. And they are not allowed to use point and click abilities or auto attacks on the opposing person unless you can justify stating that hitting that opponent with that amount of damage is better than 3-wave recalling. If you can justify that, you then take the point and click trades. If not, you do not. Right? Because then once you start playing past the wave, because you set up the wave, this minion will die first, this minion will die second, this minion will die third, this minion will die fourth, this minion will die fifth, this minion will die sixth. It's literally all in sequence because of the 2-1-1. Right? And with that context, right, you are allowed to use abilities on the opponent, and you just keep them pushed all the way back the entire time, and because they're pushed all the way back, they can't manipulate the wave whatsoever. Because they can't manipulate the wave, you hit 2 first. Because you hit 2 first, you get to keep this zone. Right? And then once wave 3 hits, you use all of your abilities on the wave to be able to crash and to reset. This works versus melees that cannot resist a 3-wave recall, like Yasuo and Yone. They just have too much wave clear. They will clear it before you get back, and it will crash 100% of the time. Right? Excuse me. And if they do resist the 3-wave recall, instead of you actively like burning all your mana on 3rd wave to be able to guaranteed hard crash it, you still slow push it and then crash it as late as possible, as long as 4th wave doesn't come in. And you abuse them with your abilities during that time while just free hitting the wave with auto attacks. Then you can rotate as need be, and you have higher mana to be able to rotate and move around and do things. Right. So then you play for a sequence of it pushes back into you, they hit 4 before you hit 4, then you play for your level 4 and you stall it out and you just try to hit melees to be able to cause the level 4 because it's on wave 4? No, wave 5 first melee, I believe. Wave 5 first melee is level 4. Or it's wave 4. It's either wave 4 5 minions or wave 5 first melee. Not 100% sure off the top of my head. But either way, with that. So then once you hit level 4, then realistically he should have much, much lower HP than you because again, range versus melee, you have relatively, or you're equal levels, right? And you should be able to abuse him and be able to hold a freeze. Now he's forced to take a bad reset, right? When he takes the bad reset, you can choose to take a reset and then also keep the freeze based on how you manipulate the wave, or just hard crash it and then he's not in lane to be able to push it back to you and then you take your reset. You have a lot of options to be able to play around. Range versus melee is ranged favored. Melees generally have higher kill threat, which becomes the problem. But in this current state, there's no kill threat whatsoever. So the fact that we're playing so passive and not actually doing anything with the Zoe, Zed literally autoing this minion should have been the death sentence of his entire early game. Because Zoe can just heavily abuse that, right? So if we're willing to play up and we're willing to take a ZQ, because why do we care about a ZQ hitting us? How does that influence the lane when we're still hitting level 2 first? We're still taking a recall whenever we want to. We still have double health potions, full life. Why do we care? So the second he autos this, Zoe should already be standing right here and it should be Q, auto, Q, and then auto to follow it up. We're already missing all of that damage from this auto attack. That's really important to be able to note. And then also, because that's happening all the way up here, because Zed is impatient, then these melees will aggro on top of you. These casters will be too far away unless you auto attack right about here-ish. And then you can always just disengage. So you don't take much damage for that. And then once you disengage and the minions go back to what they were doing, return. And because Zed autoed the wave to be able to cause that, because you've taken this minion aggro, normally just this for that trade, then all of a sudden, when you back away, it's still relatively neutral. Because melees don't do much damage. So because it's still neutral, you still have that 2-wave or the 3-wave crash ready to go. So the fact that Zed's allowed to hit these minions and has equal farm to you, and has near equal lane presence to you, and he's a melee and he's at full life is an atrocity. That's really, really bad. Especially with bone plating. Oh man, the second you see that bone plating go off, it's super aggro time. We are incredibly passive on this. So in similar concept, right? We still have Q up, use it. Q, Q, hit. Go, hit him, you're full mana. You're going to hit level 2 first. You're going to be able to abuse him. But at this stage, this can actually be relatively close. If Zed was using his Qs to be able to clear out the wave, just slightly, he could have hit level 2 first. And now similar concept, right? It's level 2. He's about to hit level 2. You can't actually abuse him because now, like, you're in a bad state. You can try to abuse him, and he can also try to fight back. So if he takes W, you take E, he dodges your E with W and gets on top of you, you're screwed. We had so much abusive time and nothing actually occurred to it. We're not doing anything. We're just existing. Excuse me. Which seems to be the theme of this. Oh, just the tryouts so far. We're just kind of existing and not caring about junglers. Which, again, makes sense. People are their rank for a reason. And when I'm talking over all of this information, I'm generally judging it at, like, the highest level. Because that's what we should strive to achieve. We should strive to achieve the best possible play and learn off of that and try to emulate the best possible play. Not pro play. Pro play is dog shit. Best possible play. So when, it's again, we're at the same level as a melee, we're the same farm as, I'm sorry, we're down a minion? No, we're up 1 minion to the melee. That is terrible. That should be a massive red flag to you if something's going incredibly wrong. The only time that should be occurring is if the melee can farm from a long range consistently. And even then, you should be attacking their mana pool. So Zed even, right? If he Qs once every 6 seconds, he's going to run out of energy. He's going to start missing minions. He's also going to have to AoE the wave sometimes, right? He should then also be down on life because every time he can Q the wave, you should be able to fight him. So we're missing our main spike to be able to punish him. And the fact that we're even giving over cannons for free, especially when he has no W, this W's a 20-second cooldown. Why are we not playing up? Why are we not getting in his face, right? Why are we not using the Qs to be able to weave in? So if we're standing here, for instance, we can Q here, we can Q him, we can auto-attack multiple times. Because we're not using Zoe passive, we're not using the Zoe Qs to be able to go through the minion wave. Because again, there's a gap between melees and range that Zoe actively loves to use. All of this is just lacking. As a similar context as well, the wave is coming into us. So if we want to hold this freeze, we should have already abused his health pool to be able to do that. Because we can't hold a freeze versus a Zed without abusing his health pool first. Because he will walk up to us, he will chunk us with his W, and then he will be able to create lethals because we're holding minions. That's inherently a problem. Now, similar concept as well. If we want to be able to just do this, where we want to just clear the wave, we should have waited to be able to kill this cannon, backed slightly farther up, had a longer Q, and then done it. Because if you notice during the downtime, we're not auto-attacking anyway, so what's the difference between backing up slightly more? I'm going into the wall. Backing up slightly more and then doing it, or doing it closer and then just not doing anything during the downtime. You get the same result. Except for, on the opposite side, you deal a little bit more damage. There you go. So this is the biggest thing and why people have so many issues in this game. Just League of Legends in general. People don't know cooldowns. People don't care about junglers, right? So once Zed's W is down, you have a full 20 seconds to abuse it. Stop backing away. Abuse it. Abuse the 20-second downtime. You should not have the same farm as a Zed. You should not be down a potion to a Zed who started 2 potions instead of 3. That should have been a massive red flag. Nothing's actually occurring. In similar context, we're now rotating to what? We're rotating to guarantee this works. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But again, in the process, we should have already destroyed this Zed. This lane should have been already completely over. But now we're just in a hard losing state. Could Zed have created lethal there? Zed has some. Zoe has some. So there's a Ronduin's in the mix. So it reduces AD by 10%. Did not hit. Yeah. If Zed takes this, Ignite autos and chases, it forces Zoe to flash. Zoe is forced to flash. Zoe's just done with the entire laning phase at this point. This should be the end of the lane. Yeah. That should just be immediate take Ignite auto. But he was really, really slow to do it. Okay, I'm looking at Zoe first, and now I'm looking back at the Zed. So don't worry, I'll go back and give the Zed criticism too. Similar concept. That's also in lethal range, but then Wukong is right there, so it's really, really hard to justify. Now with Zoe no flash at level 6, it should just be an immediate all-in, so we want to be able to crash this, get the reset off. Just reset, just reset, just reset, just reset. You don't have to walk into the bush. It's fine. I come back into the lane, we play for 6, and then Zoe dies. That's the sequence that should play out. Perfect. Beautiful. So let's look back at Zoe's side, right? Because we can tell that's going to be occurring from the second the flash occurred, right? So when that happens, Zoe has to play incredibly safe, save bubble, save everything. We can't be walking up forward because abusive time is over. So the fact that we're next to the melees up here for a second is a problem. The fact that we're in ZW range is inherently a problem. We're not allowed to do this, which is why you have to call Mei in for assistance to be able to crash this wave, because you need safety. You have to have it. At 6, you can use your ultimate to be able to dodge the triple shuriken from Zed. If you do that, you can survive the ultimate. So at 6, you have a way to survive. But right now, the fact that we're trying to trade with him, it's level 6 to level 5. You just got chunked to half life, and he still has ultimate and ignite. You have no flash. How does this ever work? I don't even think Zed needed to ignite, actually. Yeah, I think the ignite was bad. The bubble is also bad. So as a side note, Zed always pops up at a very, very set location. He always pops up on the opposite side from where he was to you, right? So if he's here, he ults you, he will always pop up on the complete opposite side. So if he ults right now, he'll pop up there. So when he's in this kind of state, Zed will always pop up right here. When I was talking about the bubble buffer earlier, Zed's already used his W. He can't reuse it. So Zoe's bubble should come out right there, right as he's spawning there. Because we know exactly where Zed's going to pop out. Every time Zed's going to pop up on the opposite side. Right? So if he's here, he is there. So the fact that we bubble back to the clone doesn't do anything, because this bubble could have already been finished. That's just a bad bubble. It looked fancy, but it's inherently bad because there was an easier way to guaranteed hit it. That was just a guess. No, granted, again, good guess, but still a guess nonetheless. Speeding up. Okay, Zoe pops back in the lane, still with no flash, still down 2 levels. The fact that Frostblood isn't just all inning here with his support rotating up. Oh, no, this isn't his support rotating up. Sorry. So they saw Wukong top. They know Wukong is in top side, and we're AFK shoving this wave. If we're AFK shoving this wave, it better be because we're playing for an item. That is 1100. I don't know, actually, from Caulfields and Sarai Dark to Yumu's. We'll talk about the build in a second. Focus on Zoe first. So Zoe realistically sees that Wukong has the ability to rotate. Josh is already halfway rotating, so she should want to be able to hold this wave. If she wants to hold this wave, she wants to hold it as close to the assistance as possible, so holding it down here is correct. Good. Good. Wait. Okay. Important thing of note. You can wait up until the W hits to be able to bubble. That's just really, really early bubble. There's no reason to be able to do that. If he's going to guaranteed be rooted before, like, without flashing, he's going to be rooted without flashing. Similar concept to Morganas that just run at a target and then ult and then throw their binding as they're ulting. I just wait for the ult to go off. It doesn't matter. Unless you absolutely need to. Luckily it worked out, but again, there's a better way to be able to play it out. So now Derek realistically wants to be able to reset as fast as possible. He wants to be able to crash. Go, and reset. Oh no, random fight occurred. Right, this is the random fight. So rotating down is correct. Good flash. That should be killed. Good. Nothing special, normal Zoe things. But again, fight shouldn't be occurring. The fact that you saw it though and rotated is correct. Grabbing the heal into the flash is correct as well. Good. Wukong holds mid. We talked about that being good as well. Showing up. Missing that is horrible. It's better to take the Q and to grab that because that can completely determine the entire laning phase. If that's Shirelia's, he now can't ult you. If that's Ronduin's, he now can't kill you through ultimate without, like, even if you don't want to use stopwatch. Can't be redemption. I don't know if it can be Gore. Gore Drinker shouldn't save you. Prowler's Claw can save you. Prowler's Claw can very easily save you because then you get behind the Zed for free. So that stops his combo. Is there another one that can pop out that would save you? I mean, it can be Heal or Barrier or Exhaust. I don't know if it can be Exhaust, actually. Not positive anymore. They've changed it too many times over the years. There's a lot that can be done there. This is really, really good. Yeah, so you should take the Q to be able to hit that. And then also, this is really, really good by Frostblood, where there's no Zoe Q. Go ahead and trade. Just missed the trade. Similar concept. There's nothing on Frostblood's side, so then Zoe should want to go in. That's correct. This ward is an illusion, realistically. This doesn't actually give you safety. If the Diana wants to come through here, the Diana's going to come through here. It's going to happen. The only reason to place this ward is whenever you're freezing right here to guarantee your safety here, because you're hugging this wall basically. So if they loop around the corner, you'll be able to see them in time to be able to get underneath turret. But if they're here and you're standing here, you cannot see them in time. So this ward is only useful when you're pulling the wave this way and you need an immediate ward for guaranteed safety. If you can wait for half a second and the opponent doesn't have dashes that can go over walls without a target, this ward becomes better than this ward. That's only if you have time. Okay. So this becomes really, really sketchy. So on red side, we know we're on dragon, right? And if we know we're on dragon, we know we don't want to fight. People don't want to rotate. If we know for a fact we don't want to rotate, or sorry, we don't want people to rotate, going for this minion just enables Zed to be able to go at you. And what people say a lot of the time is like, oh yeah, I didn't want to fight. They engaged on me. Well, if they engaged on you, that means you played in their engage range. You gave them the engage. So ulting here gives Zed a guaranteed way to go in. It's also why Maokai mid was picked in a couple LCS games a while back to be able to counter Zoe when she was really, really big. Because Zoe would ult forward, Maokai would W her, Maokai would then follow her all the way back, and fights happening. Skarner works in the same way. If Skarner ults Zoe after Zoe ults, Zoe then goes back and then gets drugged all the way back to Skarner. Fun fact. So by ulting, you gave a way for the fight to be able to happen. You forced people off of Dragon. Boop. And again, it ended up working out, but why? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to take this fight? And we are taking this fight because we're electing into this fight. Why do we have to burn our stopwatch here? It just doesn't make sense. Again, does it work out? Yes. Should it have worked out? No. Not at all. So now also with all of this overfighting, excuse me, and no abuse towards the Zed whatsoever, basically, we're magically 4-1 off of a random fight here, and should be a lost fight here. Like, it should just be Zed being happy with the stopwatch lossage. Just accept it. Because especially if Mei took this, Mei is invading this, similar concept, why is Zed continuing this fight? We are already winning. Let the winning commence. Just let it happen. It's fine. So that doesn't make sense. Oh, you can't pick up exhaust. Okay. Yeah, so you can't pick up exhaust. So then that comment before of take this minion for the Q has even more value. So exhaust into sleep, into Q. That's a bad Q. That can be farther range. That can be much, much farther range. There's no reason to have a shorter range Q and just let him have more life for free. Okay. So this also becomes that concept of, like, we want to be able to shove out the wave or attack the opponent's economy so that we have the ability to rotate, right? And everything's a resource. Health is a resource, mana is a resource, in this case, energy. Wave stay is a resource, cooldowns are a resource, everything is a resource. So in this case, we attacked his health pool and we attacked the lane state so that we had the ability to rotate first. Play is occurring right now. If Zed could rotate to this, Zed could potentially clean this up. Awesome. That's really, really good. That's our entire purpose in life. Let the wave crash because there's no reason to hold it outside. Because we're not trying to freeze. Freeze serves no purpose. No one's going to be able to help you punish that. Zed has skill pressure. Not freezing is good. That's fine. It's not a good ward. Because why does it matter? We already know everybody topside is dead. Zed rotated bottom. All you have to do is hug this spot instead of going anywhere remotely close to this area. And you're safe. So why do we need this ward? Doesn't do anything. I paused to think whether or not using the ult to do it was correct. Yeah, now we're recalling anyway, so this ward serves even less purpose. Okay, we're not recalling because... Oh yeah, random fight. Another random fight. So many of these. Yeah, now we're just losing half our life on repeat. Similar concept. If you ult forward, you are electing into a fight with Zed. If you're already half life and Zed still has ultimate, why are we electing into a fight with Zed? When you have no ability to land anything. And then similar concept, right? If you ult forward, he has the ability to ult you. You are not allowed to use bubble. Sequencing. The sequence then becomes, if you try to bubble him, he will ult. The bubble will then guaranteed miss. So why would we even throw out the bubble if it's a guaranteed miss if he wants to fight us? And the only reason he has the ability to fight us is if we don't have bubble. Fascinating conundrum. And you can always make the argument of, like, the bubble is where he was, but you should have already been dead, so why does it matter if he takes it back to the bubble and walks underneath the turret? Doesn't make sense. Speeding things up. We're really, really low. Please go home. Because you chose to greed for a wave that 2 other people were taking, your reset's now bad. You could have already been a quarter of the way here. No reason to greed for that wave. Then, yeah, you could have already been back on the map and functioning way, way earlier. Unless that wave determined whether or not you bought something, which it almost guaranteed didn't. Yeah, you've cleared 3 melees. There's no way it guaranteed anything because you still have like 100 gold left. There's no reason to stay there. Just let your allies take it. It's fine. It's a team game. This ward is bad. Place it here. Place it right at the edge because blind spot gets created. Now we're just AFK shoving the waves. But again, if we're AFK shoving the waves and the opponent feels safe, like they know where the opposing jungler is or they're getting hovered, they're just going to fight you. So if we're shoving this wave, it better be for a play. We better be doing something with it. So in this context, we're looking for a dragon. But we weren't ready for a dragon yet, so we should have slow pushed that wave. Then this next wave, we end up fast pushing to be able to rotate in for the play. Because now, Zed, realistically, should have never rotated here at all because dragon has just spawned. It's really healthy. It's a lot of life. There's no way they burn through it with a Zoe, Wukong, Ezreal. There's no Vayne, there's no Kog'Maw, there's no Aphelios with red-white. There are those things. So Zed, realistically, this wave should already be gone by now, and then Zed should be able to rotate. Because we fast-pushed a wave before it was time to make a play, we're stuck in this state of now we're losing a full wave to be able to be at an objective first. That doesn't matter if we're there first. Again, it works out because we randomly walk forward. Doesn't make it correct. It just means it worked out because we randomly walked forward. Or because someone randomly killed themselves. Better players, better team, a little bit more thinking process. None of this works. Red side just loses. That's important to note. Similar concept with how the Zoe is fed in general. Alright, those are 16 minute marks. So we go back and we look at the Zed side now real quick. The Zed Zoe play I give in like below average. We multiple times suicided. We didn't use our passive whatsoever. We didn't weave in Qs whatsoever on the opponent. All we did was shove the wave and then hope to God a bubble landed where he has 2 ways to dodge the bubble. That's it. And then you got accelerated off of random fights. You swap out Zoe for any other champion, you get accelerated in the same way. Doesn't matter. The Zoe play wasn't good. The opponent's play was just bad. Alright. So now we're looking at the Zed play. Realistically, there's no reason to be able to walk up for these minions because Zoe should be able to punish you very, very hard for it. The fact that you're walking up before Zoe has even shown that she's willing to punish is inherently a problem. Right? Because you can make the argument that because Zoe's not punishing me, it's fine to take these minions, but she hasn't shown that she's not willing to punish you for it up until about now. But we're still just free hitting the wave. Right? And then now that we've been hit once, now we're starting to spam out Qs. But it's like, we walked up to that first minion, and at that first minion, you already should have lost a quarter of your life. So that because you did that in general, the laning phase should be doomed. And now we just chill, which sucks. I can speed through this part because we already looked at it from the opposite side, so it's a similar conundrum, right? So now we're in a relatively good spot as the Zed for no apparent reason, because Zoe's just not doing anything, we're just existing. And as Zed, you generally just want to exist, because level 3 is when you can fully start trading, level 6 is when you create lethals. So why do we have to do things before 6? Doesn't matter, right? So with all this trading, everything looks relatively fine. Zoe's rotating first. We create a slow push, and when we create the slow push, then we have the ability to stack a couple waves to be able to go at the Zoe and attack her, right? Now, as a similar note, we should probably take this and all in the Zoe here because she's already half life, and we know Wukong is on Skullcrab. So you can make the argument that potentially Wukong would not be on Skullcrab. But if he's hitting that, he's not done with Skullcrab yet. So we have near absolute knowledge of what he's doing and where he is, right? So if we want to take this trade, we can take this trade as long as we're willing to blow summoners. We can force out the summoners from Zoe, right? Because this should be auto-ignite. Zoe's forced to flash. If she bubbles, then you flash behind her. She's then forced to flash and then still dies because you're still on top of her. Then you just have to bail immediately. But if you don't want to risk it, you don't want to risk it. Then we end up taking it anyways. So then the argument of we're afraid of Wukong doesn't make sense because we're taking longer to make the same play, knowing Wukong is around this general vicinity. So that's not correct. Then we end up playing this relatively slow. We're just waiting for next rotation. So this, okay, as a side note, this looks exactly like Derek Jeter 2, him playing Gangplank up top. Where all he's doing is playing for pistol shot and pistol shot and pistol shot and pistol shot. And that's all he's really playing for with a couple barrels. Very, very rare barrels, right? So the Zed play looks exactly the same to me. We're not looking to create lethals. We're looking to press EWQ all simultaneously. That's all we're looking for. We're not looking to poke the Zoe out with Qs. We're not looking to all in when we use the W. All we're doing is looking to just do that combo on repeat. And in some matchups and in some circumstances, That's fine. But Zoe's already given you a lethal. Zoe's given you multiple opportunities to be able to chunk her out just through spamming Qs because of her mispositions, with her unwillingness to punish you. Oh, excuse me. There's just so much more that can be done here. Nothing's actually being accomplished. We're not trying to do anything besides combo. But your combo's on a 20-second cooldown. If this Zoe wants to be able to crash and reset, and you're only willing to play that combo, Zoe's going to crash and reset. How do you create lethals on her? Doesn't make sense. Speeding up. Yeah, that's all we're doing. So for instance, similar concept. If she walks near this, we have the ability to go. We're also behind her there. Now that Mei shows up, we end up using her, or we don't have cooldowns up, and we force the flash. Now she should die. But if we watch the next set of combos, right, we're not willing to immediately commit the ultimate to a flashless Zoe. So the only argument that could be made for not committing the ultimate to the flashless Zoe immediately is you want to dodge sleep. That's fair. That is perfectly fair. But also, if that's the context, why aren't we just taking this and nuking her right here? And the second you see her use the bubble animation is the second you ult her. We're waiting so long to be able to dodge the Q, but why does getting hit by the Q matter when we're full life and Zoe's already in lethal range? We're trying to make this so much fancier than it needs to be. At this point, because Zoe fucked the lane so hard, you can just brute force it. If the argument is we don't know where the jungler is, well then you shouldn't be all-inning. If the argument is we want to be able to dodge bubble, you didn't dodge bubble there. And you can also go all in on her and wait for the bubble animation and dodge that with ultimate point blank. So why does that matter? By the time you fall asleep, she's already dead. Okay, similar concept as well. If we're afraid of the jungler, why would we ever use W here to be able to crash this wave? This is spooky. This is the only way we die. Wukong can come from here, but we have the ability to run down. We know where bot lane is, so using W here is relatively safe. This is fine. Then we also should not play for turrets. This is the most misconstrued idea in mid lane in the history of every fucking thing in the world. You do not play for plates in mid lane. The reason you don't play for plates in mid lane is because it's very easy for people to come back into mid lane and then start impacting the wave because it's a shorter distance from base to mid than it is from base to other side lanes. You have less time. Then on top of that, it's a shorter distance to get from turret to turret. So it's easier for them to shove and crash so you cannot hold a freeze. So by you going for this plate, even if you get the plate, you've now completely screwed over your recall. Your recall will almost always be worth more than this plate unless this plate changes your recall. I have to teach this to side laners a lot because they'll take one plate and they're like, yeah, let's play for the second plate. And by the time they get the second plate, the opposing laners walk in. Or it'll be like they haven't walked in yet, but then they're about to, so then the people start their recall. And then as they're walking back to lane, the opponents take 2 plates as you're walking back to lane. So what did we gain? Nothing. Literally nothing. And that's important to note. So when we play for this plate, right, even if we get this plate, Zoe's already here. It's too late. So unless that changed your recall, this is a really, really bad plate take. And then similar concept, right? Why are we just AFK pushing this wave? Not exactly knowing where the jungler is. I think we see him top and then he's walking down. Yeah. So we have no care in the world that the Wukong can come from here, get behind us, and then just murk us. Because this ward should be called out in existence. You didn't go from here to here to place it. I think you went from here to here to place it. I'm pretty sure. Or it could be Mei's ward. I could just be wrong on that. It's definitely something I have to look back on real quick. But anyways, we know that people have the ability to gank us, and we're AFK pushing it anyways. We don't care. That's inherently a problem. So far, similar concept. We're not trying to accomplish anything, just like basically everybody else we've looked at. We're not trying to do anything, and we keep trying to attack this turret, right? And attacking this turret does literally nothing because everybody can come help mid lane at all points in time. It's like what I talked about in day 1. If your bot lane is losing, support will rotate up. If your top lane is losing, top laner can rotate down. The jungler can attack every time they transition from here and every time they finish here. You can't go for turret. It's not an option. The only time it is an option is if you have absolute perfect knowledge and you don't need a reset or roam timer. Similar thing. We're just going for that combo. What does that combo accomplish? If Zoe wants to recall after that, because there's a large wave in front of us, she's just going to recall if that wave is or that damage is irrelevant. There's no reason to throw out resources there. It's better to save the resources for the wave clear, so that way she can't recall. Or she can't roam. There we go. So at this state, we should just leave it alone, because we know people are here. We know this is winning, right? We know everything is winning here, and we have absolute knowledge of up here, right? So if we have absolute knowledge of up here, where is Wukong? Let's go one step further, right? Let's see only our vision. Let's back this up. Ezreal's ulted the wave. And Ezreal's now missing, and he is rotating up. Why do you think Ezreal's rotating up here? Alone. With no support. And they don't know where Leona is. There has to be some reason, right? We know what the opponents are doing just off of looking at the minimap. We're very aware. There's no reason to continue that all in. You already got the stopwatch. Fantastic. That is a massive cooldown for a tiny cooldown. That's fine. But now we're losing more. So realistically, if you take this entire wave and you don't die, you should be at 100 farm to 67. You can be at 10 farm a minute here if you don't die. That's really important to be able to note. Right? And this is range versus melee. You're at 10 farm a minute. And this also showcases on the flip side how bad the Zoe play is. Nothing's actually being accomplished. A 4-1 Zoe who is down 30 farm re-entering lane. Assuming that he didn't die there. 30 farm. That's insane. Even a 20 farm discrepancy when you're this fed on a range versus melee is absolutely nutty. So we get to speed this up. Take the reset, take a reset, take a reset. Or are we roaming bot here? No, we're not doing anything. So this is really, really important to note. Let's proceed. So I think Yumu's is what, 800 gold? Something like that? It's very close to 800. So we're probably waiting on the Yumu's gold. Bigger problem with this is we kind of fucked our build a little bit. Right? So, if we're playing for the Yumu style of gameplay, the reason you would build Yumu's as a first item is because it gives you movement speed. So you can power damage while having the ability to move without buying boots. That's the powering damage portion. So you wouldn't buy boots if this was the case, if you're rushing Yumu's. Second argument, if you're building Yumu's for the increased movement speed to be able to roam around the map a lot, and you want to move around the map a lot, but you don't have to power damage, why aren't these Mobies? Third thought, if we want to roam around the map a lot and have the Yumu's to be able to roam around the map a lot, why are we not roaming around the map a lot? Why are we playing a stagnant game? So the build doesn't make sense for what you're trying to accomplish. You're not showing me a playstyle of what you're trying to accomplish. And if the argument is I'm going to start roaming at Yumu's, if you're starting to roam at 14 minutes into the game, there's inherently a problem there when you could have done it much, much earlier multiple times. Then also, if you're playing for 14 minutes plus, why do we have bone plating? Why do we have Ulti Hunter over top of Relentless Hunter if we want to move around the map? Nothing's lining up. Everything just feels kind of slapped on here. And you could potentially make the argument for, like, Yumu's, used to be the most cost-effective lethality item in the game. Used to be is the key word. That was, like, what, 8 months ago? So you could be working off of outdated information, but then this is one of your 3 one tricks. So if this is one of your top 3 champions, why is your information 8 months outdated? That doesn't make sense. Alrighty. Rotation was fine there. Chunk is fine. Again, this should be kill. We already talked about that, though. No reason for it not to be. Or at least not forcing out the Zoe flash at worst of the worst case scenario. But again, most players won't react to that. Kind of like how I have to tell people, if Gragas is body slamming towards you, and you're standing here, and clearly the body slam ends here, it's not going to hit you, he's going to flash, please preemptively flash it. Kind of thing. There's no reason for Gragas to just body slam towards you if it's not going to hit. There you go. What purpose? You had all the time in the world. What purpose does this word serve over top of this one? This word is just straight up better. What purpose does this word serve when we already have a word here? Sounds like just on the back foot trying to clear. So realistically, whenever Zed gets to this stage in the game, right? Normally your thought process becomes, my goal is not to out wave clear the opponent because it's not happening. You're not winning in wave clear. There are 2 ways to win in wave clear, right? Either A, your champion just straight up has more wave clear, right? So like Sivir versus Ezreal. Sivir's going to out wave clear, it's going to happen. Option B is you have kill pressure to the point where the opponent cannot touch the wave. If the opponent can't touch the wave, why does it matter if their kit has higher wave clear than yours? If they can't do anything about it. So the fact that Zoe is backing off, throwing a Q, and then we're not punishing that and trying to out wave clear her is inherently a wrong thought process. Because again, we're not trying to accomplish anything. We're just sitting back wave clearing because this is the millionth wave that she's done this to us. So how have we not learned that yet? In similar concept, we tried to loop around to a play that has no business occurring instead of just clearing mid and then rotating in and forcing a response. So realistically, was this play your fault? No. Could you have been here on time to be able to do something about it? Yes. Was that ultimate bad? Also yes. Oh, that could have been killing Black Unicorn's slightly better play. So that should have been an immediate take back, right? Yeah, that should have been an immediate take back, and then you W back in. So better Z mechanics is kill. Better Z mechanics actually hold. Oh, I might wipe this fight. So the way it should be played out is when all this is occurring, right? Your goal here shouldn't be to ult this person, shouldn't be to ult this person. There's a very, very fed person in the game. Your job should be to one-shot them. So the fact that you're bum rushing this straight line is inherently a problem because you can ult to the side and either ult Black Unicorns, which you don't have vision of right now, but you could place a ward to be... Oh, no, you don't have wards. You don't have wards. So you would have to ult Derek, yeah. You should be running directly at Derek. So you dodge the Cyan ultimate, you get the one-shot Derek, right? Because he's already flashed. Then, on top of that, you can take the ult back already. If you take the ult back already, you W to here and you take this fight, you can one-shot Black Unicorns. Or you can chunk the shit out of Derek. So in similar concept, this should be take back into W, into combo, into fighting Derek, using the W to be able to take it, to be able to dodge Zoe bubble if Zoe throws bubble at you. There's so much more of Zed play that can be done here. This is also why I state that he's an absolutely disgusting champion if you're good at him. He does not fall off as the game progresses, except for against point and click hard crowd control. If you're good at him. But you have to be able to play out these team fights correctly. And so far, from what I've seen, all you know you have the ability to do on Zed is you can press WEQ all at the same time. His very, very basic combo. And then not much else. Oh, Forsha also went on to the clone instead of Wukong. That sucks. So again, there's so much more that needs to be done on this Zed to be able to get him to function that it's just not there. And a lot of it is mechanics. Just straight up base mechanics on how the champion plays. Because even like when we're looking back this fight, we shouldn't be able to see like 3 different ways for you to be able to function. So either A, you take the ult back right now and you fight. Right? B, you ult Derek and you don't ult the incorrect target the entire time. Option C, you just go straight for Black Unicorns right now and you kill him. You can just one-shot him, and that's the jungler. Why are we so scared and terrified when Bubble's already down? We literally had 3 different ways to be able to win this fight on the Zed for your team. You could win this fight solo for your team as a 1 and 2 Zed. But you're not good enough at the champion to be able to do it. And that's important to be able to note. Not as like me being a dick kind of way, but also as like, this is how much more growth you have on this champion to be able to go, to be able to function on him, to be able to reach what he's actually capable of. So if you're feeling confident on him and you're feeling comfy on him as is, break that thought process. Start looking back at your VODs, see what else you can do on him to be able to close the gap more on the correct targets, and your win rate skyrockets on him. Because literally, let's say you have a 60% win rate in plat on him right now. That can go infinitely higher because you can play this so much better. Your laning phase can be so much better, poking out through Qs, not just playing for the Ws, creating the correct lethals instead of the opponent fucking up massively for a lethal to be created. Excuse me. Team fighting can be severely improved from what we're being able to see in this game. There's a lot that can be done. That's good. All right. Bot lane time. So realistically, again, this serves absolutely no purpose. Save the sweeper for lane. The reason you want to save sweeper for lane is if you have the ability to get the shove, sweeper is amazing. And you lane... So, how do I describe this? Because I've never explained this concept on the stream before, so I have to explain it in detail in order for it to make sense. All right. So there's two trinkets that you can start with in the laning phase as a support. You can start with the sweeper, or you can start with the yellow trinket just like everybody else, right? Each one serves a separate purpose. So what you'll see in LCS a lot and in pro play is they'll walk here, they'll place a ward here, they'll reset, and then they'll come back into lane. This ward is atrocious. This ward is absolutely terrible at the correct level of play. Because realistically, one of two sides should be winning the shove. Both sides shouldn't be net neutral. That's not a thing that exists, especially in 2-on-2s. It just doesn't. One side is counterpicking the other in some way, or one side is shoved in some way. So in this case, Ezreal Karma outshoves these two an absurdly large amount. So let's say Leona walks up, places a ward in this bush, right? Resets him by sweeper. By the time these melees die, Leona and Jhin are already playing on the back foot. Or they found some magical engage that occurred. Whether or not this ward is in existence does not change the fact that they will either be shoved in and playing around this bush, not this bush, or they found some magical engage. In which case, again, this ward is irrelevant. Doesn't do anything. Because if Leona's going to be here, E into this bush to be able to hit the Karma, if you watch her walk in the bush, you're going to throw out the E anyways. If Karma steps out of this bush again, and you can auto-attack her as Leona, you're going to do that anyways. Nothing changes. Right? So then realistically, right, Leona, what is she sweeping? She's sweeping out this bush for when the opponents, like, have pressure and try to ward this so that they're forced out of the bush. How do you sweep this? If you sweep this and stay up to be able to hit the ward, you get absolutely pounded for that because you're on the losing foot. So you can't actually sweep that. You can't sweep this. You can't sweep this because they can always rotate around to be able to defend their wards because they have pressure. And it should be forcing you under turret. So sweeper when you're on the losing or the back foot literally doesn't make any sense. You don't do anything with it, right? Swap that to the front foot. Now all of a sudden, Karma, we clear these melees. Karma wants to be able to play up and force Leona back. Karma gets into this bush. Realistically, there's a couple ways to force people out of the bush. There is vision control, so you can place a ward in there, and now all of a sudden it's not a bush anymore. It's just part of the lane. You can throw skill shots in there up until they say, fuck, I need to leave. My bad. Or you can just straight up walk into him and bully him out. So if Leona walks directly into this bush and says, we're fighting, you're walking into the bush and saying, we're fighting on the back foot. Right? So whenever you're on the front foot, having a sweeper actually does make a pretty big difference because now Karma can play up here and you remove one of the ways for the opponents to be able to function. On top of that, when people are on the back foot, they generally only have one spot to be able to ward clean against to prevent a dive. If you sweep this, they don't feel safe anymore. They don't have the capability to function anymore. Right? Excuse me. And especially since your AD carry has a ward, right? You generally don't need both wards to be able to defend yourself from a gank. Especially if you're on the heavy front foot, because by the time the fight actually occurs, the opponent should be so weak it doesn't matter. So on the front foot, you really, really like sweeper. Then if you are going to place a ward down here at level 1, if you're on the back foot, you place it here. If you're on the front foot, you place it here at the start. When you place in the middle bush, the only thing this determines is if the opponents are really, really dumb and walk into this bush, seeing that you have a sweeper, and then not assuming this bush is warded. They can see what trinket you have by pressing tab. They should know if it's warded or not at the start of the game, because you would place it and then you would reset. Really easy to be able to tell. And then all of a sudden that trade should never exist anymore. So, with this, the Jhin Leona should be on the back foot. Because it's double poke and ranged or double ranged versus melee range, the double range should be heavily abusive. And there should be no reason they are ever on the back foot here short of they misplayed horrendously. They win in wave clear, they win in range discrepancy, and Leona shouldn't be able to play the game level 1. So with that context, these two should hit level 2 first. When they hit level 2 first, they should be pounding the bot lane constantly to the point where they can't function. Then even by the time Leona can function, we're looking at level 3 time. Now Karma can just shield herself and Mantra W herself if you go on her, or Ezreal ease away. They need assistance to be able to fight. They need the kill pressure to be able to get through the Leona or the Karma. And that's again only if it's played correctly. There should be no way for blue side to be able to win this lane. Later on, they can still kill. If red side mispositions, they can still kill. But in perfect world, no way blue side wins this. Not a thing. Alrighty. So with this as well, this is a game I actually do like the Doran's Blade quite a bit because these two are going to play to one-shot you. So Doran's Blade is the anti-one-shot item. Perfect. We have Longsword plus 3 potions. Perfectly fine. You could opt in for the D shield as need be. But Longsword 3 potions is fine because you do have kill threat in this lane. It's not like you're only playing purely back, like you're playing versus a Misfortune with Comet, and you're just never interacting with her. You will be able to interact with these people if they make a mistake. So longsword makes sense here. That's normal. That's normal. All right. So then, realistically, as Leona, you're going to be on the back foot. If we sweep out this ward and we clear this ward, nothing actually gets accomplished. If we get a front foot, we're going to need the sweeper to be able to clear out wards so that the karma can't just say, I see you, you can't be in this bush anymore. So sweeper has value if the opponents make a mistake. Sweeper does not have value in lane if the opponents do not play well. And then similar concept, this ward means absolutely nothing if these two play decently. Sweeper makes a lot of sense for the karma if they do play decently. I think I said that slightly wrong, but you know what I mean. So we leash and then walk into lane. We get here on time. And we're already running into an issue. Oh, this was a real quick issue. Already, instantaneously. Same problem, but that's okay. Can't change the past. So what we're looking at here is, just like we saw in the last game, the supports aren't doing anything. So the worst thing you can do as a support in general is just stand in the middle of the lane. Because you lose all engaged threat, they know exactly what your hand is, and they can just hit you with shit, so they can space you perfectly. The second you walk into a bush, remember, they have to assume you're at the edge of the bush the entire time. They have to be afraid of that. They have to. They also can't just magically start a fight with you, because they can't auto-attack you. They can't point and click you at all. They have to guess. Staying in the middle of the lane is the worst thing you can do. Second, similar concept. Standing in the middle of the lane is the worst thing you can do. Why don't we have bush control? If you get into bush control, the Jhin is forced up here. When Jhin is forced up here, Ezreal can then just Q him, right? If Jhin decides to stay here, Mantra Q the wave. Now he's forced to back off. When he's forced to back off, we have full lane prio, right? Because we have full lane prio, Karma can move up a bush, Ezreal can move up, because these two don't have skill shots to be able to cause Ezreal any issues level 1. You can make the argument that Leona can E. If Leona E's, and then Karma just runs directly at Jhin and exhausts the Jhin, and then slows the Leona, the Leona is now flashing away. You've traded exhaust for the Leona flash. That's fucking massive. We're thrilled with that. Why do we care? That's what I mean by these two should be so heavily abusive. So then on top of the fact of we're throwing out a max range Mantra Q on Karma to be able to hit the Leona. But we haven't prevented this man from farming whatsoever, and the second we throw that Mantra Q, we're literally running to Kansas. Who can touch you right now? The Jhin with no cooldowns, who is a mile away? Or the Leona, who's 2 miles away? Why are we backspacing? Why is Ezreal backspacing? We don't have bush control. We're not actually abusing. We're literally doing just a slight poke and then existing. Now we're playing in bot pocket. Now we're playing for bush control when we don't even have cooldowns. We're not even... Get in the bush! Get in the bush! Get in the bush! Get in the bush! Please! We're going to pause right here. This is a massive, massive problem that I hate seeing, and this completely determines games. The second you hit diamond, this determines whether or not you win the game or not. I shit you not. In high diamond, this is everything. This is game over right here. We have a double ranged lane who has forced the Karma, who forced the Leona literally into Narnia. She got into the wardrobe, found Mr. Tumnus, had a grand adventure, and then had time to come back. Still has not touched the real world yet. Still has not interacted with the real world yet. And yet you're down a minion. The Jhin Leona hit level 2 off of this minion. How are we down in wave clear? There is an actual answer to this. I'm going to touch on it in a second, but first let's see this level 2. Because we just hit level 2. Why is Leona still in Kansas? Why does Leona have W start? What? Okay, even if we misclick W, it's still level 2 to level 1. Jhin has root. Leona should have already been walking forward to be able to zone them off because level 2 is in existence. If Leona E's either target, Jhin gets to W them, constantly kiting forward. You can go Leona E plus W and Aftershock into W into 4th shot on either target. And we're thrilled with that. You just walk away at that trade because these two can't do anything. Can't do anything about it. There's level discrepancy. Why are we still in Narnia? Why are we not doing anything? Why do we get that close to Jhin when it's level 2 to level 1? Our spacing there is so bad. We're still walking at him. It's level 2 to level 1. Why are we walking at him? Even if this Q lands, he autos you, then he Ws you. Like, he gets to chase you down here, right? Oh, not auto, but QW. Yeah, then he gets to keep going. Leona had the ability to E-Flash. Why did we hit level 2 here? Why didn't these two punish you so hard to walk all the way back to turret? It's so low quality. Because nothing is actively trying to be accomplished. We're just trying to poke people slowly. And just like, if you've ever looked up the video of death by a, like, what is it? The slowest murder with an incredibly inefficient weapon. It's something close to that. It's literally a specter that no one else can see just beating on a dude for years with a spoon. Every like 5 seconds, he just hits him with a spoon over and over and over and over until the guy's body wears out years later. That's basically what we're trying to do here. But we have two of the most abusive level 1 champions in the game, and we lost level 2 advantage. So, the reason we lost level 2 advantage is we're not playing the game. Notice how I had to say the same thing in the match 2 game 1 lobby. It's the same problem. So if we're having the same problem as the silver and bronze players, something is inherently wrong. And realistically, what we want to accomplish is we want a slight minion lead, right? And then from there, we want to be able to pursue that, play forward, make their lives living hell, because these two should be able to play past the wave level 1. We should be past the wave, because how do these two interact with these two? It doesn't exist, right? And also, no ability has been taken yet. So why did we take this level 2? That's a minor thing. But normally what ends up occurring is, notice how Jin queued the wave, right, and was autoing the wave? And now Jin is still autoing the wave? Ezreal is just last hitting, but you can't just last hit if you're supposed to hit level 2 first. If you're supposed to be abusive, if you're supposed to get in their face past the wave, right? Because right now we're losing in lane state, and neither person is doing anything to fix it. So the Ezreal should be neutral with the Jin. Karma should then set them over, because Karma can auto the wave while Leona cannot. If Leona autos the wave, you two run them all the way back to turret. That's why double range always gets prio level 1. So we need to fix this wave. So right now we're still losing. So Josh, you need to hit the wave. You need to be able to assist in this level 2. If we watch, we haven't thrown out a single auto attack. Not one. There's the first. So from level 1 to level 2, we've thrown out 1 Q and 1 auto attack. We haven't stepped into a bush. We are not existing currently. We're not doing anything. But Jin's allowed to free hit minions. Leona's in Kansas. We talked about previously how, like, if they're in separate pockets, people can only impact pocket adjacent generally, right? So every time this Jin is hitting a minion, like right there, why can't we just walk up to him point blank, just Q him, and then keep autoing him? Trade autos, and then similar concept. Ezreal walks over and starts autoing. What happens? Leona E's? Cool, we exhaust the Jin, we just fight whoever. If Jin is still there, we just beat the shit out of the Jin. Leona's done at that point. She doesn't have anything left in the tank. And similar concept. Every time Jin's auto-attacking a minion, like right here, just bum rush him. They are incredibly split. He shouldn't be allowed to walk up and touch this minion. He shouldn't be allowed to walk up anywhere near this whatsoever, but he's allowed to because we're not playing the game. This is also why, as a fun fact, I always state that supports are the worst players in the entire game. Because this is a playstyle that is only not punished as a support player. As an AD carry, if you sit all the way back, you don't get farm. If you don't auto-attack the opponents to trade, you get chunked out by the opposing support, you lose. If you miss position slightly as an AD carry, you get chunked out, you have to walk up for farm the next time, you lose. You do this in mid lane, you lose prio constantly, you will lose every single game in existence. You do this in top lane, you sit back. You go down 50 farm, 2 levels, and get dove constantly. You lose. As a support, no one cares. And it's so fascinating to be able to see that. Because we're not actually accomplishing anything, we're not doing anything. The fact that we lost level 2 advantage is 90% on the Karma, because the Karma dictates lane state. Did the Ezreal have an ability to fix it? Yes. Should he have had to use mana to be able to fix it? No. Should Jin have been able to walk up? No. Whose job was it to stop the Jin from walking up? Karma. So the fact that Ezreal was out wave cleared by Jin is initially Karma's fault because Jin shouldn't be touching the wave. Secondary, Ezreal's fault because Ezreal could have fixed it with Qs or additional auto attacks. Tertiary fault, After Ezreal's not burning abilities and we're letting Jhin hit the wave, Karma literally could have just autoed the wave and still gotten 2 first. Then final point is, why aren't we just past the wave anyways? They can't interact with us. Just play past the wave. Doesn't matter. So now we pursue through this. All of a sudden, the Ezreal Karma's on the back foot. If we are on the back foot, and we are not supposed to be on the back foot, Karma, fix the wave. Support, fix the wave. If you have double ranged versus melee range and Leona can't touch the wave, the AD carry, almost guaranteed 99.99% of the time, cannot out wave clear 2 people autoing. It doesn't exist. Fix the wave. Stop playing back. Stop not pushing buttons. Help. Play the game. Do something. Anything whatsoever to be able to assist your allies. You are currently deadweight. And now, granted, comparatively to the lower elo games, I will be much meaner in these. I say meaner loosely. Because it's like, okay, at this stage, there are things that you should know, right? Each rank should know things. So it's like, why would I expect a bronze AD carry to be at 7 farm a minute? I shouldn't. That wouldn't make logical sense, right? And if I got really mad at them for saying, like, why don't you have all this farm? Well, that would just make me a dick, right? But when we're at this level and we're still not pushing buttons, that's a massive red flag. Absolutely absurdly massive red flag. Because we should be able to push buttons, or similar concept, right? Right there, Leona pressed W, right? So we know for a fact all she has is E or Q. Right? So when she goes for a minion, especially cannon minion, which you know she has to go for, why are we not heavily abusing this from both parties? She's walking up. This should be auto attacks. This should be Q. This should be auto attacks. This should be Q. Everything should be going forth. The fact that we're both double backstepping is terrible. Absolutely terrible. This is the worst thing you could be doing. Because Leona should have been burning flash here. Leona should be burning flash here, and the lane is over after everything that occurred after them hitting level 2 because she walked up for a minion. They have no kill pressure on you. If Leona even did have E plus Q, all Karma has to do, Leona E's onto Ezreal, Karma runs past both of them, exhausts the Jhin, both players beat the shit out of the Leona, slightly kite back, she's eventually forced to leave when she's forced to start walking away, which is generally pretty early on. Then you just keep perma-slowing her with Karma, and you just keep autoing her and autoing her and autoing her. And if she comes back in, they have no ignite to be able to stop your heal. So just do the same process again. They can't play the game. Why are we Eing? What are we Eing from? We're on wave 3 in the game, and we're almost out of mana. Like, we're literally on half mana as Ezreal. Oh. This is really bad. As a side note as well, we probably should have just taken that Leona E. So remember how people can't impact 2 lanes adjacent? Right now, Jhin has no bullets. That's Q, right? No, that's Zoe bubble. Or Zoe thing. That's not Q. That was the Q animation. So if we get hit by this, Leona goes in, Jhin has no bullets, Jin's forced to Q. You shield the Ezreal, just beat the shit out of the Leona. You don't even have to burn exhaust because he's too far away with no bullets. Take the E intentionally. She's killing herself. Look at that. We're fine. We're perfectly fine. And on top of that as well, once Leona walks out of the lane, Leona's walked out of the lane. Walk at the Jhin. Make his life hard. You can hug bot pocket if Leona pops out of this bush. Then you can start succeeding pressure, but Jhin should have to back away beforehand or kite upwards. If you can kite upwards, you can stop him from being able to farm. Deny him 1 to 2 minions. You can stop it. Even 1 to 2 minions at a time is a good thing to do. Now on top of that as well, right here, let's put this into perspective. Jin's force shotting. He's done right there. Why does it matter if Leona hits you? You can fight that. Stop kiting all the way back. They have nothing left in the tank. We're trying to play so absurdly passive in a lane bully lane. We should be destroying them. Why are we shielding ourselves here? Are we using it for the movement speed to run directly at them? Why don't you just walk at them? And then just normal Q. If this is a mantra Q, this is the worst thing you could possibly be doing. Walk past the wave. You can look for Q potentially. if you still had shield up. But because you don't have shield up, you can't pursue that any farther. Just walk at him. Why do we need the bonus movement speed? Because now the major cooldown's down. Similar concept. If it's cooldowns to no cooldowns, they should just be going. Good. If this lands, you have to Mantra W. It should be an instantaneous Mantra W. You shouldn't be waiting to get stunned. Just do it. We didn't what? So, keep in mind, Leona's E is a root, it's not a stun. So the second this lands, Mantra W right now. You can do it. You can still play the game right now. You can still absolutely play the game right now, because you queued during it. So now you can push buttons. So we're also not exhausting this Jhin whatsoever as he's pounding you. We're not healing ourselves. If you just exhaust him and kite forwards, or you exhaust him, Mantra W and flash forwards, then the Jhin can't flash away because you're on top of him. And even if he flashes away, the root still goes through. If the root still goes through, he's still dead. You have a way to win this guaranteed. But you're doing... There was nothing correct here. The entire reason this was a 1-for-1 is just because you don't know how to play Karma. That's important to be able to note. Because I think this was one of your main champions, if I'm not mistaken. So the way Karma works versus any engaged champion, so like Nautilus, Leona, Alistar, that kind of stuff, all you do is you save Mantra to be able to use your Mantra W when they engage on you, and then you shield yourself and you're unkillable. If they go on your ally, instead of Mantra Wing, you can either Mantra E for a bigger shield, or you can Mantra Q to be able to stop the opposing AD carry from being able to walk in. So in case a support smacking your AD carry doesn't give a fuck. You can shield him, and that stops all the support damage, and then the AD carry can't join in the fight. You have a lot of ways to be able to play around it, but the most notable one is you're allowed to play super aggro on Karma as long as you have Mantra W and you have your shield. It's perfectly fine. Then similar concept. This is exhaust range. Use it. Use the exhaust. And then again, similar concept. Karma's a hyper-aggressive and abusive champion. If someone makes a misstep and you just flash tether them, they can't flash anymore if you're directly on top of them. They're not allowed to. Because if they do, it still goes through and then they still die. Karma should be playing that abusive. Karma should be getting in people's faces. And the entire reason this play is going so wrong is we didn't Mantra W, we wasted our E, excuse me, we didn't use exhaust, and then we decided to Mantra Q later on. That's the entire reason your AD carry died. That's 100% on Karma. And this is also where it's like, a lot of the times for supports, and now granted this might not be you, but a lot of times supports state like, oh yeah, I'm having a really good game, but my AD carry keeps dying, so we're going to lose. A lot of the times, it's the support's fault when the AD carry dies. Because if the AD carry has to walk up for farm and you don't walk up with them, they take free damage that they're not supposed to be taking. It should be split or not happening at all. Then when it comes down to fights, in the early game, supports have infinitely more value than any AD carry in the entire game short of Draven. And potentially Lucian with like Lucian Nami. But even Lucian Nami still has to press E and W on him or else it doesn't work. And Lucian just dies. So even Lucian, it's more support dependent. But anyways, the majority of the time, the support has infinitely more value than the AD carry. So if the AD carry is dying and we're losing fights, it's probably the support's fault normally. And a lot of the times Enchanter players sit back and do nothing. And then start to think like, man, I'm playing well, but my team is just feeding, so it's all their fault. In reality, it's because we're sitting back doing nothing for hyper-extended periods of time, and nothing is actually being accomplished, and then eventually a fight happens where the opponents are supposed to be on the heavy back foot, but they're not, because the Enchanter didn't do their job. Or then when an engage does happen and it hits the AD carry, the Enchanter normally has a way to dissuade it. But if they don't dissuade it, the AD carry dies, while the support just walks away. So the support score will look good, the AD carry score will look bad, and then it starts creating a false perception. Just a thing to be able to keep in mind. Because so far, what we're looking at from the Karma side, the Karma has completely destroyed this lane the first 4 minutes of the game to the point where it's in an unnatural state of fucked. So we're looking at the opposing bot lane is still in the game. The opposing bot lane had multiple chances to die. This should have been a 2-for-0 fight with the opponents burning all summoners to die. Because once you kill Jhin, you get to chase down the Leona for free. 100%. And if you Mantra W on Karma and exhaust the Jhin early, there's no way either person on your team dies because you're not even dropping to half-life. Or past half-life. It just won't happen. Not even close. And that's even if we're assuming you use the shield early. You'll drop to about half and then no past that. Then your AD carry is also dying, so now they're losing a large amount of XP and gold during the downtime. Then we look at the Ezreal side, and the Ezreal had the ability to fix half of what the Karma's mistakes were, just by pushing wave 1. Just by getting a slight advantage wave 1 and hitting level 2 first, most of this could have been prevented. So I do want to see this fight from the Ezreal's perspective. Because also the fact that Ezreal's a half man is pretty bad too. Especially with potions. Walks up to be able to trade with him. Okay, so W's onto Jhin. Q's good. Realistically, if we're all inning this, this should be W into E into Q. Oh, is that a minion there? That's a minion. Yeah, so it would be W into E into then Q. And the reason we would E here is because Karma's already stunned the, or Leon's already stunned the Karma, so Leona's job is done. So we're getting as much damage output as possible on Jhin, and then both targets should just focus to Jhin. So when we E here in a second, the E doesn't actually hit him. So that's quite a bit of damage gone. Okay, and then second E was good. Wait, was that actually second E? Am I crazy? Or was that flash the first time? No, that was E, and then the second one was flash. Okay. Yeah, so then this just becomes like flash Q to guarantee it. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Oh, close to being able to kite it out. It was close. But yeah, this is a really, really artificially fucked state that should never be occurring. And it's because it's literally the same problem as match 2 game 1. Verbatim the same problem. Why are we mantra queuing that? So, similar concept on Karma. Karma doesn't want to be able to use mantra a lot of the time unless she can guarantee her safety during that time period. So, like, when we mantra queue this, I don't know what we're aiming for because that looked like it was trying to go above. And if we're just hitting 2 melee minions, why does that matter comparatively to hitting the casters if we want to shove? So, I think this is just a really, really bad queue. Let me just double check. Yeah, so Q's going out in the straight line right here. That's the angle. What are we trying to hit there? If it's just 2 melees, take 2 steps off to the side, mantra Q backline if we want to shove. So that doesn't make any sense. I think if there's a reason for this. No. And then once you use mantra, you're already at half life. If you have mantra up here, you can literally shield yourself, run directly at them, and just fight. Because keep in mind, Ezreal's on reset. Jhin is on reset, but if you press tab, Jhin went boots and no potions, so all damage sticks. So literally, you can just shield yourself and run directly at Jhin. And then just mantra W him. And what happens? Leona comes in on you. Okay. You can't fucking die. So it doesn't matter. You're fine. The only way you die is if Diana's there, but we just saw Diana mid. So you should want to run directly at the Jhin. And if we look at the distance between you and Ezreal even right now, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what the bronze and silver support was doing. Verbatim the same. You're playing back. You're not actually doing anything of competency, but it looks nice because your score looks good. This is the worst playstyle in the entire game to have, and only supports have it. Only supports. No one else. And I hate calling it this because, like, it's what the stereotype is, but this is the e-girl stereotype, which, again, despise it. Absolutely despise it. Because realistically, I don't, like, the stereotype generally goes with enchanters because enchanters have the ability to sit back and do this and just enable. And that's some games their actual job. Just make sure to dissuade every single engage in existence. It exists. But also, enchanters are a hyper-aggressive champion when played correctly if they're in a good matchup. So, I despise the stereotype because it ruins enchanters for the majority of the populace, because then they think, oh yeah, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. It's a bad, like, rep if I play it. But in reality, there's so much you can do with it. You can be so hyper aggressive. You can get in people's faces. You can nullify all engages while being abusive. And there's so much to do. But we're standing behind the Ezreal AFK in the bush. We know where the opposing jungler is because they just ganked mid. So either go ward right now for your own safety to be able to push up, or move into mid bush because you don't care about the opposing jungler. One of the two, but do something. If at any point in time you catch yourself doing nothing, stop. Think about what you're doing. Because there's a lot of moments in this game where you're just walking around back and forth, and then the thought process has to be, you should be doing something. It doesn't mean you have to be attacking something or shielding something, but you have to be doing something. Even just your presence should be doing something. You should be zoning people off. You should be playing, or you can be I'm playing in a protective manner. I want to make sure that my AD carry is safe. And I want to make sure that I'm safe. But you've had this process since level 1 where they had no ability to get on you, so that can't even be your thought process in current state. If it is, you have to reevaluate your game knowledge. Excuse me. Because we're not doing anything, we're just existing. Like, look how long we're just sitting in this bush for. This is exactly what I got annoyed with for the Zillion sitting in lane. Exactly the same thing. Now we've moved up one bush, but they're over here. Why don't we move up a second bush? Because either A, we're not afraid of the jungler circling around here with absolutely 0 wards. And if Leona wants to engage on us with Flash, she's gonna engage on us. It's gonna happen. You being here is not actually safe. It's an illusion of safety. Or we don't care about the jungler, which is why we're here, and we did not go ward with our ward and 2 wards and pink ward. Then we should move up. Because even right here is outside of Leona range except for Flash. Hello. I did already go over junglers. Excuse me. I can give you the short version, though. Because right now I'm on supports. Or you can watch it later, but up to you. If I see you want the short version in chat, I'll give you the short version. Okay. Yeah, and it should be up tomorrow. Alright, now I'm on supports. And I am slightly losing it. I am just on Karma so far. I think I started with junglers, so... Okay, short version is fine, too. By the way, I started with junglers, so it'll be the first thing that pops up for this VOD. Because I got through top laners last time. Short version was, realistically, your clear was very, very slow because you're not pulling out camps correctly. Second thing is a lot of the plays you made were plays where you had an absurdly large amount of downtime because there was knowledge that you had the ability to have that was either ignored or not looked at. So a great example of that was when we look back at like when you end up like clearing up top, going through here, the Diana gank happened, and then everything kind of, what was that? The Diana gank happened, then chased over here, and then you killed this person here. You end up walking all the way around into their blue side, but in reality, you could have just pressed tab, see how much farm the Diana have, and then all of this looping around was completely worthless. Then the majority of your ganks that occurred were ones that were absurdly obvious to the point where they should never have happened. So for instance, there were multiple times where you hit Scryer's Bloom and then went for a gank like literally 10 seconds later and it worked. There's just random fights that occurred that had no business occurring. So results-based analysis, your score looked really good. Actual analysis is the opponents just played horrendously, which allowed all of your downtime to have relevancy. Because you should have been down 50 farm at 15 minutes with a standard game. But then Maze Clear was also suboptimal. So if you're down 50 farm by 15 minutes, each kill is worth approximately 15 farm. You have to have 3 kills to just be neutral with the opponent in gold. Down in experience, but neutral in gold. That's pretty bad. So then your ganks have to work. But because you're walking around using so much downtime, there's no way to guarantee your ganks work because you're just hoping the opponent makes a mistake. That's the short version. Alright. Back to supports. Or back to Karma in particular. So now we're just sitting here. So we end up wasting... I want to see how much time we were just sitting in these bushes. So we're already in the bush. So how long do we have before we apply any pressure whatsoever and interact with the opponent? So just from the bushes, not even sitting behind your AD carry. So he has to take the brunt of the damage, just sitting in the bushes. So 508 basically. No problem, man. So that's 10 seconds. That's 20 seconds. That's 30 seconds. That was 38 seconds of not doing anything of relevancy. That's how much downtime you had. And that's only when you walked in the bush. Because keep in mind, there was time before you walked into the bush where you were standing behind your AD carry. When the opponents had no ability to engage. None at all. And Jin's just happily farming because you're not abusing him when you're supposed to be. 38 seconds of nothing. No pressure, no zoning off, nothing. And the reason I say no pressure or zoning off is because if you're standing here, even if they treat you at the farthest range and they're outside the range out here, they're still farming. So what pressure are you applying? You're not impacting what they're doing because they have a safe spot to stand to be able to continue going. You want to make the spot unsafe. And similar concept, you could have also gone to ward. You could have moved them into different pockets to be able to force their hand. You could have manipulated the wave to be able to help a crash, to be able to get a reset off so that you can actually function. But no. Nope, we didn't do anything. And now we're still a Karma who has not reset in going to be probably close to 7:30. Because you now have to help crash this so you can reset. Oh no. We're still walking around. We haven't reset. We still haven't reset. We still haven't reset. This is a almost 8-minute fight and we haven't reset yet a single time. That is atrocious. We reset at 8 minutes off of death when we're supposed to have all the wave clear and prio in the world. And we're not. Because we're not pushing any buttons. We're not doing anything. We're just existing. And to put into perspective, same thing I told the bronze and silver players. This item generally gets finished at about 11 minutes. You have 3 minutes to get 600 gold on this item. Now that you're versus a Karma Leona, that timer moves up because it's really, really easy to get. So the fact that you're at 355 gold at a little over 8 minutes is terrible. Because this should also be completed by now. This should be at the 500 mark. Neither support has been functioning. And you, in most part, this should be already at about 700 gold. You're missing an absurdly large amount of gold because you're not doing anything. You're just existing. And it's exactly the same problem that we had in the other game. Actually, I'm going to check this. 8 minutes. We're coming back to this. You get to see my desktop. Actually, game 1. We're going to look at what they had on their support items. So, let me open up Notepad real quick. So, 355, 8 minutes. We're going to look at this. Because I harped on these two basically for them not interacting with each other or anyone throughout the entire laning phase to the point where there was nothing to really talk about. Because nothing was occurring. So if we go to 8 minutes and we look at both of their support items, because it was 805. Looking at 196 and 196. Oh, they're actually equal. Okay. So, if they're at 196 and it's 20 gold per, let me actually back this up a little bit because it could be ticking over. So 805 exactly. Okay, 355. So you are up 160. 160 gold is 8. 8 interactions. You are up 8 interactions to someone, or 2 people who are basically, again, not interacting with anything. 8 interactions is 1 trade. Well, technically 2.5, because you can only go through 3, right? Excuse me, you can only go through 3 charges per thing. But that's really, really low. Because also with how much you're interacting with the people, that one fight that got screwed up, that's basically the only time you've interacted with more than 3 interactions at a time. This is how little you're interacting with the opponents. And that's very, very important to note. Let me close this. There we go. Because if we're interacting with the opponents that little at this level in a hard-winning matchup where you're supposed to play past the wave on a comfort champion, I'm assuming comfort champion. I'm pretty sure it was. We should start rethinking some things. All right. Back to 8 minutes. 803. There we go. So this is the first reset. We zoom out a little bit. Back to what we're doing. All right. So now as well, there's no reason to go straight bottom, because if we look, this wave is completely shoved in. Your Ezreal has to recall. There will be no fight that's occurring. So realistically, we should be rotating into either mid or mid top. Excuse me, and that depends on where we want to play. So I think Wukong wanted to go here, and then path down to Dragon, which was inherently bad. Explained why in the jungle section. So if that's the case, you should be rotating mid, and then determine where you need to go from there. But there's no purpose to be bottom whatsoever. When you show up, there's not going to be anything. So by the time you actually loop around here, you could have just gone through base gate. So I get to see where your clicks are. So if your actual pathing was here and your initial click was here, you'd be hugging this wall or you'd be going through base gate. So when do you turn your pathing? Because right now, the straight line is to here. You're clicking here. When do you turn your character model? So when you turn right here is when you actually click into here. So you went from here to here before recognizing that there was nothing to do in a lane. While during that, all of your dead time was in existence too for you to be able to look around the map. We also have 2 pink wards. Day 1, already talked about that. Why 2 pink wards were bad. You can go back and look at the support section for that. Because this literally serves no purpose. You're about to get shoved in. They're going to clear it anyways. This does nothing. And notice how much downtime we have again. Which again, remember, anytime you feel like you're having downtime where you're not actually accomplishing anything, start thinking about why you feel like you're having that. So for instance, right here, there's nothing to do bottom. We recognize there was nothing to do bottom. Now we're running around the jungle. There's a laner here where the wave is pushing and it's very, very volatile, which you should have already been here to be able to help her crash. That then allows us to have Proud to be able to go into Dragon, potentially, if we wanted to go that play. But this should all be avoided already. Now this should be occurring. Or then similar concept. If we wanted to walk around here and just kind of go back and forth, just help your jungler up. Do something. Do not just walk around. Because again, support is the only role in the entire game where that is pseudo acceptable because you have so much downtime because there's no burden for you to do anything. Okay. So again, we're smacking Dragon. We shouldn't be smacking Dragon. There's no purpose to be smacking Dragon. Thank you for paying attention to this play though. Although burning shield is kind of your way to save Zoe. So it's kind of awkward to be able to burn it for the movement speed there. It's a little weird. Thank you for correct purchase as well. Kindle Gem plus Amplifying Tome is infinitely better than Bandle Glass plus Ruby Crystal. Infinitely better. Because with the Bandle Glass Mirror, it gives 20 AP, 10% CDR, and then some mana regen. But you never actually use the mana regen as a support, especially when you have the Spell Thief's Edge. If you need the mana regen, you're way over spamming. So then let's just have the 20 AP, let's have the 10% CDR, and then let's have 200 life instead of 150. So you gain 50 life comparatively to mana regen that's worthless. Much, much better. Okay. We're assigning to invade. This is fine. Shield becomes useless. Why do we need the shield for slight movement speed when a fight could potentially break out? There's no need. There we go. Alright. So now we want to be able to crash this and potentially hit turret. We know where the opposing jungler is, so we know that we're safe. We already have dragon. We know mid. We know jungle. We know top. We know bot. Why are we not abusing? What's happening here? How much gold are we staying on? Not relevant. Not relevant. Push. Go. Attack. You have 15 seconds to complete your support. I'm at 1,000 gold. We don't even have wards yet. Why are we recalling? Neither of you have gold. You have high... Oh, this is very, very bad. You both have very high resources. We know exactly where everybody is. There's this massive wave that we could abuse the opponents on. We can see that the Jhin is low mana. We can play for plates. We're not playing to do anything. But you're in the wing spot. Look at how much farm we're just giving him. So let's pause this for a second, right? So all of this should be contested, right? Every time he's farming underneath turret, you can get hit by Ezreal Qs, you can get hit by Karma Qs, right? They can be hitting the turret, right? So you're losing out on a plate when you're very high resources with not enough gold to buy anything. He's buying a Kindle Gem, which his build is wrong. Touch on that in a second. You're buying your Bandle Glass, so you're gaining 10% CDR. That's all you're gaining for this recall. You're already high resources, you're fine. They are gaining 22, 44, 66. Oh no, my brain is dying. These are 16. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is 60 plus 36. So that's 96 gold plus the 66. So 156, 172. So 172 plus whatever this cannon is. So probably close to 220, 230, somewhere around that. Somewhere very close to this. We're giving them literally 2/3 of a kill for free when they have no mana and we have no way of being punished. Then on top of that, we are not taking this plate when we should be taking this plate at a bare minimum. You can probably get 2, honestly, if this poke goes well. So then you're losing between 160 to 320 gold as well. So you have the potential for... What the fuck was that? So we'll go lower ends first. So 220. What was it? Yeah, 220 to 230. So 220 gold, 320, 380 gold. So you're losing between 380 gold to 330, 230, which is 550. To 550 gold. This is the opportunity potential you are losing for a Kindle gem and finishing 10% CDR. That's it. Why are we just letting the opponents play the game? So, keep in mind as well, something I love to talk about, your rank is determined by two things. How many mistakes you make and how many mistakes you let through. The amount of mistakes we've made this lane is insane. The amount of mistakes we've let through is insane. Why are we not abusing anything? Why are we not being bullies? There's the Kindle gem. There's the Bandle Glass. There's the 2 pink wards that don't serve any purpose. We're wasting a lot of gold. If you don't buy any pink wards, how much gold do you have? 3,200. You already had your Moonstone. No pinks is you have tier 1 boots and Moonstone right now. Poke better, you also have Moonstone. Side note. Even with having all the pinks. Pink doesn't do anything. I'm curious for how the rest of the speeds up. I want to see when you finish your support item at the 500 gold mark. Because it should have been 1,000 gold by now. Just show me the 500 gold. I'm going to keep speeding up until I see it. Fantastic. So it took us an additional 2 minutes, 43-ish seconds to be able to gain 500 less gold than we were supposed to have. That's how little we're interacting with the opponents. And that's, again, very important to note because this is a hard one-sided lane. Incredibly hard one-sided. Leon taking no ignite makes it even more one-sided because now your Mantra W is full. The heal is full. There is no lethal onto you. It doesn't exist in the entire lane. So throughout this entire lane, it was 2v1. The entire lane was 2v1. Alright. So off this now, I'm going to start looking at the AD carry more. Sorry, Falcon. So with this, we already talked about runes previously. Builds. Builds are super important to be able to talk about. So Ezreal has 3 builds that are functional. Right? Each one serves a separate purpose. There's technically Divine Sunder as well, but the argument for Divine Sunder is for the healing, because it gives exactly the same life, like flat life, as Triforce. And if you need the healing on Divine Sunder or Ezreal, you're probably screwing up your positioning absurdly hard. You don't need it. So the 3 builds are Triforce, first off. Triforce into Muramana into Shirldas, generally. The Triforce build is the Bruisery build that spikes harder than the other builds at 2 items. Because of Triforce. It only spikes harder at 2 items if you can auto-attack consistently. If you can't auto-attack consistently, it doesn't work. So we're looking at melee, 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 but he goes in and out of fights. And melee, you're going to be able to auto-attack pretty consistently. So if you require a 2-item spike or a 1 to 2 item spike, the Triforce build is for you. Everything past that, the build falls off the face of the planet compared to the other builds. Okay. Second build is you go whatever you're starting into Tyr, into Sheen, then you finish Muramana. You do not build Essence Reaver yet. Then you build Essence Reaver. The reason you build Essence Reaver after Muramana is because Essence Reaver scales off of your bonus attack damage, which you need before you have Essence Reaver. So Sheen plus Muramana is more damage than Essence Reaver plus components to Muramana. Fun fact. Even before the Muramana transforms. Okay. Then after Essence Reaver, this is where the builds get different. So both of the other builds have this start. Then from there you determine, am I hitting targets with 160 armor or more? Or am I hitting targets with 159 armor or less? This variant of the build is at 3rd item. So you would have Muramana, you would have Essence Reaver. Your 3rd item becomes Shirelda's Grudge. Your 4th item becomes Eclipse. The other build for 159 armor or less is you go Prowler's Claw 3rd into Shirelda's Grudge 4th. So in this game, that's going to have the armor value, that's going to have the armor value, that has the potential to have the armor value, that absolutely has the armor value. You're looking at this build. So your correct build for this game, if you can state, I can actually kite correctly and avoid being one-shot, which, especially as a poke build, you're basically playing for Qs this game. You're not playing for auto attacks. It should be the whole Mermana, Essence Reaver, into Shereldas, into Prowlers. Or sorry, into Eclipse, not Prowlers. Sorry. Eclipse. And again, the breakpoint is about 160 armor. Very close to that. It's changed a little bit because Eclipse got nerfed for range characters, but about 160 armor is still correct. And if the argument is, oh, Zed's just one-shotting me. Well, whether you had Triforce or not, Zed's going to one-shot you. You can make the argument for Frozen Heart, but then if Leona anything lands, if Jhin anything lands, if Diana gets on you, if Camille gets on you, Frozen Heart doesn't save you. It would only save you from Zed. So it's better to just build Zhonya's later on in the build. Yeah, so this build doesn't make any sense at this point. We also now have Sherelle. Okay. Okie dokie. We're going to run through a little bit of an issue here. So Sherelda's, or Battle Song, Shirelia's, not Sherelda's, is great for burst fights. You use the movement speed to be able to reposition a carry or to be able to engage the fight. And should be over in under 4 seconds. At 4 seconds plus, the Moonstone is going to generally take over. Because the bonus healing and shielding becomes insane. Especially if you pick up like a Redemption, a McHale's, anything along the lines of that. It just becomes absurd. So as Karma scales throughout this game, her entire purpose in life is just press Mantra E. Your Mantra E is already repositioning versus all of the assassins as is. If it's not enough, it's not enough. Fights are generally also going to be relatively extended through poke. So when Ezreal lands a Q, you can then shield the Ezreal, and that starts your Moonstone ticking. You don't even have to be anywhere near the opponents to be able to heal your allies and stack up the increased healing and shielding. So then by the time an actual fight breaks out, you should be able to Mantra shield with a fully stacked up Moonstone. And it becomes a massive shield that the opponents just can't get through. That's your purpose in life. It is not to make people run fast, because also your Mantra E makes people run fast. Shirley is not needed this game. Does not serve a purpose. Especially when Sion's going to be your frontline, Wukong's going to be your frontline. You're going to have more extended fights. Let's even take into consideration the fight that happened here. Alright. Which, granted, ended up being a win, but let's showcase this. How long did this fight happen while you were in combat for? So right here, if you shield anyone, which, by the way, wait, there's the Mantra shield. We didn't even Mantra okay. Karmas at the highest level in team fights are judged based off of how many Mantra E's they get off in a fight. That's it. If they're engaging onto you and you're not Mantra E-ing, and you want to Mantra Q, something's very, very wrong. Mantra E is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Wanting to use the Mantra Q doesn't make sense. You can want to use Mantra W, potentially. That could make sense, but Mantra Q doesn't do anything. So what do we Mantra? Don't Q it. Damn it. You Mantra W, you're still alive. You Mantra E, you're still alive because you can both dodge Leona ult. Anyways. So realistically, if we don't walk directly back into the Leona ultimate, we literally walk directly back into the Leona ultimate. Or again, if we Mantra W'd, or if we Mantra E'd to keep ourselves alive. Because we would have had the shielding. Either one would have worked. This fight, if you notice, gets pretty extended. And it's very, very easy to not get picked off as the Karma. Very, very easy. Because now the playstyle you had for the entire game, now that becomes relevant in team fights. Because the better an enchanter can survive, the more healing and shielding and fucking slows and utility they can pump out. They want to play slightly behind the AD carry generally, because if the AD carry gets engaged on, they can protect them. If they're standing next to the AD carry and the AD carry gets engaged on, they're also getting engaged on, meaning they have to use their resources on themselves. So they have to position correctly around that. Moonstone would have ticked so many times. There would have been massive shielding coming in, massive healing. So much would have been done. Shirley's did nothing. And that's an exact situation where it's like, okay, we could have had value there. Because even if you Mantra W yourself with Moonstone, keep in mind, Moonstone increases all healing or shielding you do, including to yourself. So you can just have absurd heals with Mantra W as well. You can keep yourself going. This is really, really bad. This is bad. Excuse me. Both builds are bad. Alrighty. To the flip side. Flip side, similar concept. Most of what I'm going to say about this, I can go really, really fast for this, is basically on the flip side of like, okay, we're pushing the wave when we're not supposed to be able to push the wave. We should be getting abused. We're not getting abused, so we get to punish it. Leona should be playing much, much farther forward. Leona should be playing for murder because we've already proven that these two don't know how to play the laning phase. They don't know how to hit level 2 first. They don't know how to abuse the level 2. And then also it was basically a 2v1 lane. Then also I have no idea why Leona started W level 2. Or level, yeah, like right when she leveled up to 2. I'm assuming it was just a misclick. It happens. I don't know why this had relevancy. We knew exactly where Wukong was. There's just a lot of wasted time from Cat as well in these games that I've been watching. Just like doing random things where we already have absolute information of. So like Zoe's pathing top. We can know Zoe's pathing top. We can see Wukong right now. We can see Sion. We can see their bot lane. Why are we rotating like this? Why do we need to prevent a ward? Who's ganking you? Who's ganking you in the near future to cause this comparatively to helping your AD carry crash the wave? It's just wasted time. Then once this engage happens, now we get to finally see like how Karma's supposed to be able to win this fight. So the way Jin has to play this fight is he has to space it really, really well. And then make sure he's outside of exhaust range the entire time. But yeah, this is how one-sided the matchup is supposed to be. Because this is like, what, a full life Leona going in? Yeah. Basically full life Leona, 3/4 life Jin. They both have relevant mana. And then there's no shield on Karma. Ezreal has to fight through minions to be able to be functional. Ezreal gets exhausted on time. So then as long as Jin kites this backwards here and just hits the Ezreal, this fight is fine because he never gets exhausted. Ezreal probably just dies here. Then Leona should realistically be standing here to be able to block the Ezreal Qs. If Ezreal flashes, then Leona flashes to be able to continue blocking the Ezreal Qs. And Karma's so chunked out, she can't get anywhere near the fight to be able to function, so she just has to play max range Qs and max range shields. But that won't be enough to be able to salvage this if they just kite backwards. Because this just gets super greedy because exhaust is still in the mix. Because yeah, if they just kite backwards and just hit Fulcrum, if Fulcrum flashes away, it doesn't matter. They just chase. Because yeah, at this point they still had double flashes. So as long as they, again, like, so Fulcrum's right here. Cat goes to right here. Jin keeps kiting backwards because the exhaust will allow Leon to get to the opposite side. Especially with the stun here in a second. Yeah, especially with the stun here in a second. Then Leon goes here. If Ezreal flashes out, then Leon can always flash to be able to land E or Q to guarantee it. And then Jin can just keep following up. And again, if Josh ever re-enters the fight, it doesn't matter. He's too low. He just suicides. Because he never mantra W'd. Because we wanted to mantra Q really badly. So blue side should have been able to win that fight if they played it slower because Karma didn't do anything correct. Okay, and then lane is as is. Realistically, Leona should probably be resetting here. The reason Leona should be resetting here is because Karma has no ability to crash this wave because of the cannon minion. And then Leona doesn't have any resources to be able to continue functioning. So she should back all the way off, go around the corner, and then just reset. And that way she can be on the map to be able to function. Because if you look at the wave as well, neutral line of scrimmage, this is where the actual line of scrimmage is. This is the one oddball. The wave is naturally going to push this way unless there's an absurdly large event. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So Leona should maybe clear 1 to 2 before resetting. Yeah, and then should be a reset. The fact that we're still in lane is inherently a problem because now Jin is back wanting to fight. But it's like, how do we do that? No, I don't know what this is. Similar context. If we have no idea where Wukong is right now, we're just walking up here sweeping, assuming he's like not here. But he has all the reason in the world to be because Skullcrab was still up. So the fact that we're walking up here is just suicide. Especially when Jin can't really assist you. Both of these two should just bum rush him, call the Wukong down, and then Leon can just die here super easily. It's another one of those just like, why are we walking into the river to sweep when we don't have pressure? The wave is coming into us. We want the wave to come into us to be able to hold a freeze. Our jungler is pathing away from us. So if this play goes wrong and Leon gets chunked out, you just get dove and lose everything. Sequencing. So what's the purpose of walking up to be able to check for Wukong when we just need to be as healthy as possible for a dive because the wave's already coming into us? There's no burden for us to walk forward. And then similar concept. Dagus now over auto attacks along with Nico Cat. Did we over auto attack here? That's a little early. Let me back this up. Because the wave was coming into us, right? So when did the wave stop coming into us? Yeah, so once that Mantra Q came out, All Jin has to do is chill. Don't use Q. Just last hit. Just last hit. Just last hit. Let the wave come into us. Yeah, so here's the overpush. Jin needs to be able to just play back, let the wave come into him, because why would we want to pursue forward whenever they're closer to their turret, and we know Wukong is bottom because of the Skull Crab. Plus, on top of that, he has high reason to be bot lane. Right? Then also our jungler is pathing away, so we do not want to fight, so we kite back. We place a ward here if we have one. We do. We have 2 right here. And then we chill, especially when we're taking Boots Rush Jin. If we're taking Boots Rush Jin, it basically states we're not fighting because we didn't go combat power. Combat power is king. Yeah, so now we're just over pushing, and that's why it's starting to push back into the opponents. So now we're volatile again. And again, Karma should be abusing. Ezreal should be abusing. We should be making their lives hard. We shouldn't want the wave to push away from us because our jungler is on the other side of the map, unable to help us. We have no idea where Wukong is. Right now, the Diana is invading, so if we see the Wukong, then we can start playing the game, but we don't know where he is right now. And the fact that Diana is on the Raptors means that Wukong is still in bot side jungle. We know that for a fact now. Because there is no reason... By the way, this is just blue side vision that we're taking all of this information off of. There is no reason for Wukong to be in topside jungle unless his clear is absurdly slow. So yeah, he's now just showing up into Raptors after the Diana had time to walk all the way top for a dive. So up until we had that knowledge, there's no reason to want to play forward there, but we kept pushing and we kept pushing and we kept pushing, and it's making us very, very volatile. So now we show back up bottom. We know Wukong was topside. I didn't see where he went, though, on our minimap. Okay, yeah, we know he's top. We know he's top. So if we know he's top here, this can potentially be a fight because right now, Karma hasn't reset yet. So we want to look for fight here. We actively want to fight here. It's also Longsword plus D-Blade to double Longsword and Dagger. By the... you already had this. So this is 350, 600, 650. Yeah, that's not... Yeah. So you can't buy pickaxe. So now right here, we want to be able to fight here because we are infinitely stronger than them. Because if Karma re-shows up, Karma's super, super weak right now. Ezreal's super, super weak right now because he had to buy the tier. We want this fight. And we want it quick. Now we see Wukong even more. We watched the Karma walk from bot lane up. There's no reason for this play to work. The fact that we're just now zoning off the Ezreal is relatively bad. Because again, we saw Wukong top a second ago. We saw him hit the Scryer's Bloom up top. No reason for this play to work. So similar concept, we should be playing all the way up, walk him all the way back. Beautiful. Much, much better. Please stop taking Ezreal Qs. Similar concept, Leon can just sit right here in this bush or right here, and then Ezreal's forced to play all the way back here because he can't get engaged on. So if Leon's sitting right here, Ezreal's going to Q like this, and most of them are going to miss. And that's the power. Just keep the freeze. Good block. Just make sure he can't Q. Actually, with that E forward, do we just go there? Because he has no flash, right? Let's replay that. I think that's just kill. 90% sure that's just kill. We see Wukong. We see Zoe. So we know they're coming bot. Yeah, that's just immediate E-flash because the farthest Wukong can be is right here. That's 100% immediately E-flash on Leona. But also we don't have Ignite because we fucked our summoners. So the fact that we're not going there is inherently wrong. It doesn't matter if Karma's here or not. That's just kill. Because we know Wukong has no ability to be there. Yeah. Ezreal would have been dead or lost like 80% of his life before anyone showed up. And if he's already lost 80% of his life, we already get to finish off the fight as they're coming in. Then the fight breaks out, call Mei over. That's win. Ezreal trolled. That should be win. Excuse me. Ends up being lost only because Zoe shows up. And the only reason Zoe could show up is Frostbud trolled his lane. Okay. So this is interesting. Similar concept. Both AD carries basically have the same problem as what we saw in match 2 game 1. Josh has exactly the same problem from the 2 supports we saw in match 1 game 2. Or sorry, match 2 game 1. And then Leona is incredibly passive and doesn't know where to stand. Doesn't know when a lethal is created. And then also a lot of misties, which half of them weren't even good. There's so much more that can be done there. Okay, so also, I've been super pessimistic on bot lane again. Let me explain why. Because every time we get to bot lane, I sound like a dick. Just how it is so far. The reason that is because, again, support players are generally the worst players in the entire game because they're allowed to sit back and do nothing, and most people just accept it as acceptable. It's not. because we're not playing the game, because we're standing so far mispositioned, because we're missing so many skill shots, because we're providing so little pressure, I have to point all of that out. If I don't, there is no point to be able to talk about any of this because there's so much going wrong. And whenever there's so much going wrong, I have to keep addressing it because it's so prevalent. It's so game defining. Right? Because one of the biggest things is the first time you face a real bot lane, both of these lanes are going to get shit on. Because they're going to pressure you like you've never felt pressure before. And it's just literally by existing and playing forward. And understanding the base cooldowns. That's all it really is. But again, it's allowed. And similar concept with the AD carries, where the majority of the time, all we've done is just shove and shove and shove for both parties, without thought of like where the jungler is, how to set up the wave for our jungler, anything along the lines of that. Both AD carries are just AFK shoving. Most of the time, AD carries have this problem, and the reason for that is most supports don't know how to assist farming under turret. So if the wave hits underneath turret, the AD carry hemorrhages farm, the AD carry feels bad, so they gain the habit of AFK pushing. It's a really bad habit to have. Because starting at double longsword, or like Doran's Blade Longsword, Doran's Shield Longsword, you can farm under tower just fine. But it's because everybody remembers bad feelings infinitely more than good feelings. They remember that like first rotation of minions, just getting pushed in and missing minion after minion after minion after minion. And we're even kind of seeing it here, where Ezreal's down in farm because he's just been pushed in. And he just hasn't farmed well. There's nothing more to it. If you're ever at 5 farm a minute on Ezreal, something's very, very wrong. Yeah. So this is at most going to be 6 farm a minute on a champion that... No, we're just losing this. We're at 6 farm a minute on a champion that is absurdly safe, that has no reason to be missing minions unless the opponents are blocking your Qs. Then also is in a winning lane with a winning state. Like, you're good. You're fine. You should be able to farm underneath turret just fine as Ezreal without problems. 6 farm a minute becomes inexcusable at this stage. Similar concept. If you're constantly pushing in the opponent, 7 farm a minute is also inexcusable at this level. Because you're playing a 2v1 lane, unironically, and you're at 7 farm a minute. That is very, very low. And it's probably mostly just due to missing minions. Because again, to hit 6 farm a minute, all you have to do is clear every single caster in the game. And then some cannons. Or some melees. And that's it. Because keep in mind, the game's, like, the wave comes into lane at, like, what, 1:30-ish? So there's that amount of time. So if you just clear casters, yeah, you get technically 6 farm a minute, but there's a minute 30 downtime at the start of the game. So it would be more like 5.8-ish by 10 minutes. That's just clearing casters, nothing else. You can get 5.8. We're barely above that. That's how many minions are being missed. For both sides. Especially, again, if you're in a winning state, there's no reason to be missing all of that. It just shouldn't be a thing. We're not doing anything. We're just AFK shoving. We're just existing. Nothing's happening. And we ran into a very similar problem for match 1 as well, where, in a similar note, both AD carries were kind of just shoving. Both supports didn't know how to trade, didn't know where to stand in bushes, didn't know how to function. This game is just a more egregious version of that. Where, especially again with the Karma, if you're standing behind your AD carry, it better be because it's only if your AD carry gets engaged on, you can save him and you can't afford to be engaged on, and you have no ability to abuse the opponents. If that is not the case, you should be hitting the opposing AD carry when they farm. You should actively be positioning in a way that puts pressure on the opponents. You should then be, when your AD carry walks forward to be able to hit minions, you should be walking forward with them to prevent as much damage as possible, or potentially split the damage. Because they can get abused very, very easily just by the opposing AD carry. The opposing AD carry has no minions to farm. Your AD carry has a minion to farm. The opposing AD carry will hit your AD carry instead of the farm because there's nothing to farm. So if all minions are full life, your AD carry has a burden of execution to farm. The opposing AD carry will hit your AD carry when they're good enough. All that's being lost. And it turns out that all of these like deaths and everything are just random arbitrary fights. Where it's just, this fight served no purpose in existence. Because it should have just been absurdly one side. That one side shouldn't have wanted to take it. Ezreal literally inted and we just didn't take it. So the rest of the fight is completely irrelevant. The fact that Zoe was able to rotate was we knew exactly where the opposing jungler was and Frostblood still died to it. This fight was the only one that wasn't arbitrary, where blue side had the ability to win it and didn't take it. Red side had the ability to win it and didn't take it. Because right here, this should be, again, immediate exhaust onto Jhin. Jhin can't function anymore. You Mantra W the Leona. Both sides just focus onto the Jhin. We're good. Both sides just go onto Jhin. He can't function anymore because Leona's out of gas. All right. Secondary note. If Karma wants to be able to tether onto Jhin, Mantra W, and then flash to be able to guarantee it, Jhin dies. That works. With neither of those being played out, then all of a sudden the exhaust onto this, if Jhin just kites back and Leona comes to be able to block it, eventually Leona's going to have to flash to be able to finish off the Ezreal, but he will die. So because no exhaust here, no tether here, no tether here with flash, blue side now has the ability to win. That's how much it had to be screwed up for blue side to have the ability to win, because there's also no shield either. Shield is on cooldown. Then again, on the flip side, at this stage, blue side had the ability to win and didn't see a way to be able to do it because they kept tunnel visioning onto a one-hit Karma instead of the Ezreal, who has flash but no E, who is exhausted and just inted. So again, better lanes punish this, because we're not even popping Leona passive there. We didn't even pop it. Now what happens if Leona's blocking right here, Jhin